Chapter 264. With the primordial dragon battle armor in hand, Li Yu's Monkey King plan could begin. The primordial dragon battle armor must be modified before I can take it out. Otherwise, if Aol Wan sees that this is the primordial dragon battle armor, my image as emperor you would be gone. Li Yu smiled. This kind of thing was naturally very simple for the system. Even the black gold armor of the crocodile ancestor could be changed by Li Yu into a white robe. Changing the appearance of the primordial dragon battle armor naturally wouldn't be a problem. System: change the primordial dragon battle armor into phoenix feather purple gold crown, golden chainmail, and lotus silk cloud walking shoes. Remove the dragon race aura, retain the chi and blood enhancement ability. Change the cloud riding ability to fly. Under Li Yu's command, a 5-colored light shrouded the primordial dragon battle armor. Within the 5-colored light, the primordial dragon battle armor instantly disintegrated. As the light intertwined, the phoenix feather purple gold crown, golden chainmail, and lotus silk cloud walking shoes were formed. The Monkey King's 3-piece set was completed. Not bad. It looks decent. Li Yu looked at the Monkey King's 3-piece set and chuckled. Monkey is the #1 fighter of the merchant city. Naturally, I can't treat him badly. This world had already reached a great era where heroes were emerging in large numbers. In order to obtain benefits in this great tide of heroes fighting for supremacy, it was natural that one had to arm their subordinates. Monkey, Aol Wan, Qilin, Marquis Champion, Concubine Yuan, Bai Ziyue, and even Hong Yi were all important aides in Li Yu's plan. Therefore, Li Yu prepared to bestow them treasures. Qilin is an earth saint beast. He can control the power of the earth. Then I'll have to give him an earth attribute treasure. The best earth attribute treasure in Li Yu's possession was naturally the black-yellow chi. However, Li Yu was an old miser. No matter what, he wouldn't give such a treasure to Qilin. Yellow Dragon Furnace. This is also an earth attribute treasure. It was only placed in the pill hall to enrich the collection. It's still suitable to be used here. Li Yu nodded. System: change the Yellow Dragon Furnace into a seal. Based on the appearance of the Imperial Jade Seal, the coiled dragon button on top of it is transformed into the image of a Qilin. This is called the Qilin Seal. Qilin could already be dealt with, so all that was left was Aol Wan. Originally, the white dragon shell was the most suitable for Aol Wan, but I've already used it. Let's use some Taichu Motetsu to craft a piece of equipment for Aol Wan. Li Yu was about to make a move when he suddenly remembered that Aol Wan had a set of armor and a long sword when he was the master of the Tianlong Taoist sect. He could just refine it based on the original foundation and it would be fine. Thinking of this, Li Yu already had an idea. Wu, quickly come and see me. After sending a message to Monkey, Li Yu called out to Aol Wan and Kirin. Moments later, Monkey, Qilin, and Aol Wan arrived before Li Yu. Greetings, Lord. Rise. Li Yu smiled and nodded. He glanced at the three of them and said, Since you're my disciples, I naturally won't mistreat you. Today, I'll bestow some treasures for you to protect yourselves. All of you must cultivate diligently and not slack off. Thank you, Lord. Hearing that Li Yu was going to bestow treasures, Monkey, Aol Wan, and Kirin were all overjoyed. The treasures bestowed by Emperor Yu would definitely be extraordinary. Wu, come here. Li Yu beckoned to Monkey. Yes. Monkey accepted the order and came forward. This is yours. Li Yu waved his hand and 3 exquisite pieces of equipment appeared in front of Monkey. The phoenix feather purple golden crown, golden chainmail, and lotus silk cloud walking shoes. Seeing the 3 pieces of equipment that were so beautiful and had a faint sense of vast power, Monkey was overjoyed and quickly reached out to receive them. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Kirin, this is yours. Li Yu ignored the silly Monkey and waved his hand to release a yellow light that landed in front of Kirin. This is, looking at the bright yellow Kirin seal floating in front of him and sensing the rich and heavy aura within, Kirin was shocked. This is an utmost treasure. Kirin had followed the Holy Emperor Ji and naturally had good eyesight. The seal before him was already a divine weapon of the Holy Emperor. Furthermore, this aura and power was extremely compatible with him, as though it was tailor-made for him. Thank you, Lord, for your generous gift. Kirin thanked him hurriedly, but still could not calm down. An utmost treasure like this is not something that an ordinary perfected young god can easily refine. His Majesty Emperor Yu is definitely not as simple as a perfected young god. Aoluan, come here. Upon hearing Li Yu's summon, Aoluan ran over happily. I don't have any treasures that are suitable for you at the moment. Li Yu looked at Aoluan and shook his head with a smile. It's all thanks to your kindness that I was able to transform into a dragon. I'm deeply grateful for your generous gift, Lord. Aoluan hurriedly knelt in front of Li Yu and thanked him sincerely. Haha, there's no need for that. Li Yu smiled and waved his hand to help Aoluan up. He smiled and said, Everyone has their own treasures, how can you not have yours? I just don't have any ready-made treasures. I'll just refine one for you. At this point, Li Yu looked at Aoluan and smiled. You used to have a set of armor and a longsword that were made of extraordinary materials. Give them to me and I'll refine them for you. Yes. Aoluan was overjoyed and hurriedly waved its dragon claws to retrieve a rose-red longsword and a set of rose-red armor. My lord, this is the armor I used in the past. The longsword is called the Rose Sword and the armor is called the Rose Armor. Aoluan presented the two pieces of equipment to Li Yu. They're both red. Li Yu waved his hand and kept the two pieces of equipment on the table in front of him. He smiled at Aoluan. Do you like red? Not really. Aoluan shook its head. It's just that these two pieces of equipment are red to begin with. I see. Li Yu nodded. Since you're a white dragon, I'll change them to white. He waved his hand and ordered the system in his mind. System: extract some Taichu Motetsu and refine the rose sword and rose armor. A 5-colored glow enveloped the two pieces of equipment. In an instant, a snow-white sword and armor that looked like they were carved out of white jade appeared on the table. A huge amount of cold energy was emitted from the sword armor, causing the entire hall to be filled with a chilly air. Creating two pieces of the Holy Emperor's divine weapons in the blink of an eye was truly frightening. Both the monkey and Aoluan had never seen the Sun God Master before and thought that this was the Sun God Master's divine ability. But in the Qilin's eyes, this scene gave it quite a fright. Hiss! The Qilin sucked in a breath of cold air. Having followed the Holy Emperor Ji, the Qilin naturally knew how the Holy Emperor Ji refined his treasures. Which of the Holy Emperor's treasures didn't take countless years of refinement to refine? It was normal for a Holy Emperor's divine weapon to take hundreds of years to refine. His Majesty Emperor Yu actually created two pieces of the Holy Emperor's divine weapons with a wave of his hand? This was simply too frightening. From this, it could be seen that Emperor Yu was not as simple as the Sun God. Chapter 265. There was a reason why Emperor Yu had bestowed him with a treasure. A stingy guy like Li Yu would not be so generous as to give out treasures. This was all part of the mastermind's grand plan. All the disputes in this world originated from a bet. The ancient immortal emperor, Taoist creation, the various saint emperors, and the various saint emperors had different views on the fate of all living beings and the future of the world. Thus, there was a dispute. The Holy Emperor believed that only strict order could ensure the orderly development of the world. On the other hand, the 100 sages believed that all living beings in the world were free and should be allowed to control their own fate. Thus, heaven and earth were chess pieces and all living beings were chess pieces. The Holy Emperor and the 100 sages used the fate of all living beings and the future of the world to play a huge game of chess. But I want to play chess too. Liu stroked his smooth chin, an unfathomable smile appearing on his face. Ever since I shouted my name is you, I'm sure all of you who play chess know of my existence, right? There's another chess player on the chessboard of this world. Liu looked up into the void and his eyes were so deep that it was as if he could see through the vast thousand realms and see through the endless time and space. The place of origin is also the place of solitude. All the ancient emperors and 100 sages will go to the place of origin when they reach the end of their lifespan and sleep in solitude. Only a remnant will remain and wait for the final outcome. Liu retracted his gaze and chuckled. Then let's have a good game of chess. He waved his hand and a chess scale appeared on the tea table in front of him. Liu reached out and picked up a chess piece. With a thud sound, the chess piece landed on the chessboard. Northwest of the Great Qian Dynasty, Sand State. Huge military tents stood in the middle of the vast expanse of yellow sand. It was late at night. After a day of fighting, the Western region allied army gathered by the Essence Divine Temple gradually began to rest. Great dark mandara canopy. A pitch-black mandara flower floated down and endless darkness instantly enveloped the entire military tent. Tens of thousands of soldiers, as well as countless armors and provisions, were sealed into a black crystal in an instant. Roar! The pitch-black Tautai swayed and swallowed the devil's snare seal. Primordial Qi Shen, I will annihilate all of these soldiers. I don't believe you can still hold on. The Marquis champion sneered. His figure flashed as he charged towards the next camp. The Marquis of Champion was smashed into a cliff by the monkey's stick. When he got out of the cliff, he couldn't even find the shadow of his enemy. The Marquis of Champion could only vent his anger on the Western Region Coalition Army. The Marquis of Champion's plan was very simple, which was to draw out the primordial Qi spirit. Only by devouring the primordial Qi god could the Marquis of Champion ascend to the level of creator, and only then would he possess truly invincible power. With the Marquis Champion's mid-level human immortal cultivation base and the soul power of 6 lightning tribulations, the Marquis Champion was able to defeat the Marquis Champion. This kind of sneak attack in the dark was simply too much of a bully. In just one night, the 200,000 soldiers of the Western Region Coalition Army at the front lines were raided one by the Marquis of Champion, wiping them out in one fell swoop. Once that happened, both the Great Qian Dynasty and the Western Region Alliance Army were dumbfounded. As expected, the primordial Qi god couldn't sit still. Early the next morning, the Western Region Alliance Army's camp resounded with mighty hymns. Brilliant light enveloped the entire camp. My lord, you are, the entire Western Region Alliance Army's camp resounded with waves of fanatical prayers. It really came. The Marquis of Champion sneered and retracted his aura, concealing himself. Is this the descent of the primordial Qi god? On Shazhou City, Hong Yi looked up at the dazzling holy light in front of him and frowned. The Sutra of Future Lifeless Sutra allows me to calculate the universe. Unfortunately, I haven't mastered it yet. Otherwise, I would be able to calculate what happened last night. Although the primordial Qi god is a spirit of incense. However, it has hundreds of millions of followers in the various countries of the Western region. It has enjoyed incense for countless years, and its strength is unfathomable. This time, the primordial Qi god has descended. We must be prepared for it. On the city wall, the god might King Yang Tua leaned on a long spear and spoke with a solemn expression. Your Highness is absolutely right. Hong Yi nodded in agreement. The mighty hymns ahead grew louder and louder. In the brilliant holy light, a figure with a human head and a snake body, with a vast and majestic aura, appeared. Is this the primordial Qi god? The god might king exclaimed. Even though he had fought with the various countries of the Western region for many years, this was the first time he saw the true form of the primordial Qi god. A human head and a snake body, the embodiment of the great Tao of the world? The primordial Qi god actually looks like this? Hong Yi was also shocked. The image of a human head and a snake body represented the word Tao. How could a spirit of incense have such an image of the great Tao? In the next moment, something even more shocking happened. Kaboom! The moment the primordial Qi god appeared in the holy light, there was a huge explosion in the void. Avicii hell! A man wearing blood-red armor and holding a dark red long spear appeared beside the primordial Qi god. His entire body was brimming with blood Qi, and his blood Qi was as strong as the sun. The long spear in his hand emitted a dazzling blood-red light, like a blood-red dragon soaring into the sky and stabbing at the primordial Qi god. Marquis champion? Hong Yi's eyebrows twitched. He was a little confused. The Marquis champion was in charge of Qing province, suppressing the Western Cloud Empire. Why would he come here? Seeing the Marquis champion appear, Hong Yi did a quick calculation and immediately realized that the incident last night must have something to do with the Marquis champion. So, he purposely drew out the primordial Qi god? Yes, the Marquis champion obtained Emperor Yu's treasure. It is said that this treasure has the power to devour all things. Is he trying to devour the primordial Qi god? Boom! At this moment, there was an earth-shattering explosion in the holy light. The void shattered and a strong wind surged. The Marquis champion and the primordial Qi god were fighting in the air. The wind and clouds surged and the sky changed color. The huge wind was like a tsunami, crazily sweeping out. The main camp of the Western Region Coalition Army was hit by this violent gust of wind. Immediately, men and horses were thrown off their feet and thrown into chaos. Your Highness, Hong Yi turned his head to look at the God Might King, his eyes shining. The God Might King had been on the battlefield for a long time. How could he not see that this was an excellent opportunity? Beat the drums. Attack. The God Might King let out a thunderous roar. The war drums shook the heavens, and the cavalry charged out with a thunderous rumble. Kill! Battle cries shook the sky. Hong Yi jumped down from the top of the wall. His hands formed a mysterious seal, and a vast and majestic power soared into the sky. Tathagata seal! A huge handprint suddenly rushed up, and all the soldiers and horses in front of the handprint were instantly smashed into pieces, and the soldiers and horses were thrown off their feet. The Marquis champion's surprise attack, and the great Qian army arrived. At this moment, a great battle that shocked the world and directly affected the situation of the entire world erupted. Chapter 266. The Yuan Qi spirit was very powerful. As the only faith of hundreds of millions of people in the Western regions, the Yuan Qi spirit had accumulated a tremendous amount of power. However, he was just an incense spirit, an existence formed from faith. The biggest weakness of such an existence was that he did not have a real physical body. Against the qi and yang of a human immortal, any soul without the protection of a physical body was extremely dangerous. Avicii hell! The Marquis of Champion's mighty qi and blood was unleashed in a spear. Blood-red light bloomed, and wherever the spear light went, the void would shatter. Chaos Void Rashomon Gate. The Yuan Qi spirit had a human head and a snake body. The upper half of his body was that of a Western burly man, while the lower half was that of a huge snake. As the holy light flashed, a door with chaos flowing opened in front of the Yuan Qi spirit, opening up the endless chaos void to welcome the Marquis of Champion's ferocious spear. The ancient Rashomon Gate was the Yuan Qi spirit's personal treasure. It had 9 void doors, and the endless void rotated, mysterious and unfathomable. When the Marquis of Champion's spear came, the Yuan Qi spirit opened up the door and guided the Marquis of Champion's attack through the void door into the endless void. In the name of fate, imprison! The Yuan Qi spirit put its hands together, and endless platinum holy light flowed. A huge platinum cage was formed, sealing the Marquis of Champion in it. The cage of fate? The Marquis of Champion sneered. A grass-head god like you dares to claim to control fate? the qi and blood of the human immortal exploded, like the scorching sun in the sky. The cage of fate instantly exploded, and could not trap the Marquis of Champion. However, the Yuan Qi spirit did not want to trap the Marquis of Champion. 3 realms Yuan Qi Canon. An extremely dazzling platinum holy light suddenly exploded, like a pillar of light that pierced through the heavens, and blasted towards the Marquis of Champion. This light was extremely brilliant, but it also carried with it endless destructive intent. It was like the last ray of light between heaven and earth when the planet was destroyed, the sun exploded, and the greater world was destroyed. Since I dared to have designs on you, how could I not be prepared? The Marquis of Champion was not surprised by this destructive beam of light. He waved his hand in the face of this destructive beam of light, and a crystal-clear light appeared in front of him. The rippling light was like a bubble that would burst with a single touch. However, the Marquis of Champion had used it to block the strongest attack of the Yuan Qi spirit. It seemed that he had overestimated himself. In fact, he was not resisting. The clear light was the power of space travel that Marquis Champion had acquired. It was essentially the portal that Li Yu had created. Under normal circumstances, the Marquis of Champion would use it to travel through the void, or launch sneak attacks at close range. Using it to block the opponent's attack was unprecedented. The dazzling cannonball of destructive light shot forward and crashed headfirst into the Marquis Champion's glass light screen. Then, behind the Yuan Qi divinity, a crystal-clear light flashed, and a destructive beam of light shot out. The Marquis Champion had actually opened a void passageway behind his vital energy spirit. Therefore, the most powerful attack that the primal divinity had unleashed, the 3 realms primal cannon, had landed on his body. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion rang out. Extremely dazzling light flashed fiercely, and violent shockwaves swept out like a raging tide. The surrounding sky shook violently, and a series of shattering sounds rang out in the void. The primordial energy and spirit that he had brought upon himself had taken his own strongest blow. The destructive power of the 3 realms primal cannon was something that even the primal divinity could not withstand. Under this attack, half of the primal divinity's body had exploded. The primal divinity's consciousness scattered in all directions, and it was almost unable to maintain its body. Great dark Mandara canopy! The well-prepared Marquis Champion flicked his finger, and a black light shot out, forming a pitch-black Mandara flower above the primal divinity's head. Endless darkness swirled, and layers upon layers of Mandara flower petals instantly closed up, wrapping around the primal divinity's scattered consciousness and sealing it. With the power of the primal divinity, even if it had taken a blow from him, it would have been able to recover in an instant. Even if it had been sealed by the dark Mandara canopy, it would have been able to escape in an instant. However, the Marquis Champion only needed this instant. Roar! The huge Tautai appeared, and its huge mouth, like a black hole, swallowed the Mandara canopy that had sealed the primal divinity. At this moment, in the entire western regions, in all the shrines that worshipped the primal divinity, the brilliant primal divinity statues exploded with a boom, turning into fragments on the ground. In all the shrines of the western regions, the eternal and inextinguishable holy light exploded with a bang, dissipating into nothingness. At the same time, in the western region's coalition army, all the temple knights and all the priests were no longer able to use the power of holy light. My lord, the western region's coalition army no longer had the will to resist, and the nearly 1 million troops instantly collapsed. Victory! 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 Countless great Qian soldiers cheered as they chased and killed all the way. The cheers of victory were like a tsunami. All of this had nothing to do with the Marquis Champion. After swallowing the primal divinity, the Marquis Champion broke through the void and instantly returned to his lair in Qingzhou to digest and absorb the power of the primal divinity at ease. The Marquis Champion is not bad. When Li Yu heard Taoyue's reminder, he realized that the Marquis Champion had swallowed the primal divinity. The primal divinity was the only god that the Western Region's coalition army believed in. Under the worship of hundreds of millions of people, the primal divinity had accumulated enormous power. Because the primal divinity didn't have a physical body, its essence was a little inferior, and the primal divinity was still at the level of 6 lightning tribulations, unable to ascend to the level of a creator. However, the primal divinity actually stored 9 primal divinities. Each primal divinity was equivalent to the level of a 6th tribulation ghost immortal. In terms of energy storage, no one below the level of a creator could compare. What a fat pig! What a thick layer of fat! Liu smiled and nodded. In addition to its own energy storage, there's also the Primal Divinity Gate and the 3 Realms Primal Divinity Pool. The Primal Divinity Gate could open 9 spatial doors. As long as the Divinity Gate wasn't closed, these 9 spatial doors would exist forever. And there was also a huge minor 1,000 world inside. This thing was still somewhat useful to Liu. The 3 Realms Primal Divinity Pool. This thing has some history. Liu looked at the Primal Divinity Pool in the resource vault with a strange smile on his face. The Primal Divinity Pool was also known as the Immortal Inkstone. It was a treasure refined by the Immortal King, the sovereign of the primordial demon gods. The Immortal King had the head of a human and the body of a snake. The Primal Divinity's appearance was based on the Immortal King's transformation. In fact, the people of the Western regions all had the bloodline of the primordial demon god. The primal divinity had also received part of the Immortal King's legacy and was one of the Immortal King's pawns in the Greater Thousand World. But now, the primal divinity pool had been destroyed by the Champion Marquis. More importantly, the Champion Marquis had been reincarnated into the Greater Thousand Worlds by the Immortal King's handiwork. He was also one of the Immortal King's pawns. A chess piece had killed another chess piece. Moreover, the Champion Marquis was now in Liu's hands. That was interesting. What will you do next, Immortal King? Liu tossed the Immortal Inkstone into the Taoya's resource vault with a wave of his hand, a faint smile on his lips. I look forward to the surprise you'll bring me. Chapter 267. Good. 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 Very good. The Marquis Champion sat cross-legged in his secret chamber and sensed a vast amount of spiritual energy pouring into his sea of knowledge. His 100,000 spiritual thoughts erupted with dazzling radiance. His spiritual energy was abundant to the extreme. With this accumulation, I will be able to transcend 7 lightning tribulations and become a creator. Besides the dream god base, who else in the world can be my match? The Marquis Champion laughed heartily and was about to leave for his 7th tribulation. There's something else? The Marquis Champion was about to get up when he saw the Taotai spit out a pitch-black and quaint inkstone. He reached out to take the inkstone and saw the image of a demon god with the body of a snake and the body of a human. The Marquis Champion felt his mind tremble as a vague sense of familiarity arose within him. This is the 3 Realms Pool of Origin Energy? Its true form is actually an inkstone? Why do I feel a sense of familiarity? Have I seen it somewhere before? The Marquis Champion was very puzzled and tightly furrowed his brows. The Taotai had never spat out anything when it swallowed all things. Just what was going on? Buzz, at this time, the inkstone in his hand trembled violently and floated in the air. Boundless radiance blossomed and a majestic sacred light rose like the rising sun, illuminating the greater 1,000 lands. Within this radiance, the human-headed snake statue on the inkstone suddenly came to life. The statue coiled up and floated in the air. In the midst of this boundless sacred radiance, this tiny statue, only 2 inches long, suddenly erupted with an incomparably vast and tyrannical aura. A mighty will had descended. At this moment, the Marquis Champion felt the scene before him turn illusory. Time and space flowed and the greater 1,000 lands changed. A vast and boundless void appeared before him. Within this void, a colossal figure that spanned across the sea of stars and radiated boundless sacred radiance appeared before the Marquis champion. The human-headed snake figure appeared and exuded an aura that seemed to be the origin of the great Tao of heaven and earth. It was both sacred and mighty. Young man favored by fate, was it you who obtained my beacon? A sacred and majestic voice reverberated through the void, as if the will of the entire world was contained within this voice. Haha! You're also playing this game? How interesting! Of course, you wouldn't miss this opportunity to watch the show. Seeing the Immortal King's deliberately mystifying appearance, Liu couldn't help but laugh out loud. Tao Tai, hide all the information about Emperor Yu's treasure from the Marquis of Champion's soul. Since he wanted to trick the Immortal King, of course, he had to make him think that this pawn was still under his control. Otherwise, how could he be willing to invest in it? In the secret chamber. The Marquis Champion's heart shook as a wave of ecstasy surged into his heart. This is a fortuitous encounter? Did I get another opportunity? Haha, this Marquis is indeed the Son of Heaven. Young man favored by fate, I am the child of the great Tao, the embodiment of the great Tao of heaven and earth. Destiny has allowed you to obtain my beacon. You are the chosen one of destiny. The sacred voice reverberated, as if announcing the birth of the child of destiny to all living beings. Young man, controlling the greater thousand worlds and ruling over all living beings is your destiny. Accept my gift. At the end of your destiny, you will become the god of the heavens, the sovereign of the greater thousand. Seeing that this pawn that he had made back then was developing very smoothly, and there were no signs of other people tampering with it, the Immortal King was very surprised and planned to increase his investment in the Marquis of Champion. The sovereign of the primordial demon gods had the power to shatter the vacuum realm, and the Immortal King was extremely powerful. This time, he had indeed invested a lot in the Marquis of Champion. A ray of light rushed out and fell into the Marquis of Champion's glabella, and endless information instantly fused into the Marquis of Champion's soul. Immortal body, 1 yuan body. 129,600 acupoint. Fist essence, blood rebirth, myriad of changes, shattering vacuum. There is also the Immortal King's fist, King's blood sacrifice. When the Marquis of Champion saw the information that appeared in his mind, he was so excited that his whole body trembled. This was a great Tao of the martial Tao that led to the shattering vacuum. His current soul cultivation was already enough to pass through the 7th lightning tribulation. As long as he continued to devour along the way, passing through the 9th lightning tribulation would be no problem. Now that he had this martial Tao of the heavens path, he already had the possibility of advancing to the sun god, and his future cultivation would definitely be smooth. Young man, I will welcome your arrival above the heavens. The sacred light dissipated, and the statue with the human head and snake body fused into the inkstone. I will definitely set foot on the peak. He reached out to catch the falling inkstone, looked at the immortal inkstone in his hand, and then looked at the Taotai jade pendant and laughed. So the Taotai found out that this was an opportunity and spat out the immortal inkstone? Haha, it is indeed a great opportunity. With this harvest, the Marquis of Champion's strength would definitely soar. Liu was also very happy about this. The Immortal King is really willing to spend money. The Taotai naturally sent a copy of the information that had fused into the Marquis of Champion's mind to Liu. He had almost taught you everything he knew and invested so much, but in the end, he found that this chess piece was no longer yours. Immortal King, when you find out the truth, what will your expression be? A mocking smile appeared on Liu's face. At this time, the Immortal King has already broken free? It seems that my plan is about to start. Liu smiled and nodded. The Immortal Emperor had captured the 5 primordial demon gods one by one and sealed them in the 5 immortal monuments. Since the immortal king had already broken free, the day of the other 4 demon gods breaking free was approaching. The immortal monuments are one of the pinnacle divine weapons in the world. Each monument is made up of 480 million talismans. As long as you refine one monument, you will have ever-changing martial arts cultivation. Although I can't use it, my subordinates can still use it. Liu knocked on the table in front of him and smiled sinisterly. The demon gods sealed in the immortal monuments all have the power to shatter the vacuum. This kind of fat meat is suitable for the monkey to eat. Aol Luan, Qilin, come see me quickly. Liu called, and a moment later, Aol Luan and Qilin came in front of Liu. Greetings, Lord. Rise. Liu waved and instructed. The path of cultivation is to combine movement and stillness. Just meditating and cultivating qi is not the right path. In Huagua Mountain, there is an illusory realm that I have set up. You can train inside. Yes. Upon hearing Liu's instructions, Aol Luan and Qilin hurriedly obeyed. After bidding farewell, they broke through the void and rushed to the monkey's Huagua Mountain. There is an immortal monument in the seabed of the East Sea. When the time comes, this will be your opportunity. Liu chuckled, picked up a chess piece, and gently placed it on the chessboard. Chapter 268. Great Qian Dynasty's 63rd year, 4th month. A huge victory shocked the entire world. News of the victory spread, and the entire Great Qian Dynasty rejoiced. The divine might King Yang Tuo and the top scholar Hong Yi led the army to defeat the Western Region Alliance army. They traveled 3,000 miles to the west and wiped out the 36 countries of the Western region. All of a sudden, the various countries were terrified and submitted to him. From now on, the Western region is safe. This great victory also allowed Hong Yi to obtain tremendous prestige. Especially among the scholars, Hong Yi's identity as the top scholar and his reputation of defeating 1,000,000 soldiers with a 3-foot sword made his reputation as the sun in the sky. Using this momentum, Hong Yi took the opportunity to establish the Book of Changes Academy. He wrote books and wrote the Book of Changes. Of course, among the upper echelons of Great Qian, everyone knew that the key to this huge victory was the Marquis Champion killing the Essence Qi God. However, the relationship between the Marquis Champion and Emperor Qian was very strange. Even the Marquis Champion himself didn't ask for credit, so the others pretended not to know and were just confused. The Marquis Champion obviously didn't care about asking for credit. After going through 7 lightning tribulations and becoming a creator, he focused on martial arts cultivation. He planned to fully open his acupoints and become invincible. Meanwhile, Hong Yi put all his attention on writing the Book of Changes. Qian, Yuan Heng Li Zhen, fire and water not yet met, leaving the upper and lower ridges. Wei Ji Heng. Little Fox Ji, bathing at the tail, no benefit. 9 upper, gain from drinking, no blame. Bathing at the head, gain from loss. The words landed on the paper one by one, and the light of wisdom bloomed. The truth of everything in the world and the fate of all living beings in the world were all here. When the last word was written, the room shone brightly, and the entire Book of Changes Academy was enveloped in brilliant light. At that moment, the world shook, the wind and clouds changed, and ghosts and gods were frightened. The Book of Changes appears. The Book of Changes appears. At that moment, all the statues of the 100 saints in the world burst out with brilliant light. Faint figures appeared in the light, and they looked in the direction of the Book of Changes Academy with smiles on their faces. 100 saints welcome, heavens congratulate you. At that moment, Hong Yi only felt that his soul had enveloped the entire greater world. Time passed, everything in the world and all living beings in the world were in his eyes. One by one, holy figures walked out of the river of time and bowed to him with smiles on their faces. Easy has appeared. At this moment, all the ancient existences slumbering in the land of origin were roused from their slumber by the shaking of the world. They let out a faint sigh, but it was unknown whether they were happy or sad. However, Liu only felt joy. Ha 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 ha. Good, good, good. The Book of Changes is born, and my Tao is complete. The mark left on Hong Yi's body automatically dissipated when it was transferred to Li Yu after it recorded the entire text of the Book of Changes. Li Yu looked at the Book of Changes, recorded in the resource library, and read it word by word. The more he read, the happier he became. So that's the case? Was this the connection between all things in the world? Ha 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 ha, my Tao is complete. Liu laughed loudly and walked out of the heavenly tomb. Yi has Taiji, which is the birth of Yin and Yang. Yin and Yang evolved, and all things were born. The three forces are side by side, the 5 elements are born and restrained, and the 8 trigrams are separated. The Book of Changes has 64 hexagrams, which are all-encompassing. All things in the world and all living beings in the world are all here. The light of wisdom circulated in his mind, and Li Yu instantly understood his own great Tao. Ruler? Wrong. I am heaven and earth, why do I need a ruler? His mind shook violently, and the self-dharma idol that was like the ruler of all worlds shattered with a loud bang, turning into light that filled the sky. System, pour all the collected soul power into my sea of consciousness. Following Li Yu's order, the vast and boundless soul power poured down like the Milky Way, surging into Li Yu's sea of consciousness. Over the past few worlds, how terrifying was the soul power that Li Yu had collected. The countless soul bodies in the heavenly tomb space, the various soul powers that the Marquis of Champion of this world had devoured along the way, and the 2 Yang God thoughts that had been delivered to him by the Zhou-Yi. If this energy poured into his sea of consciousness, if it was anyone else, they would have exploded and their soul would have been blown away. I am heaven and earth. Li Yu's mind was completely clear. The tremendous impact brought about by the enormous spiritual energy that poured in like a tsunami did not move him in the slightest. His expression was calm and serene. With such a good accumulation, I will naturally soar into the sky. Today, it is time to transcend the lightning tribulation. For so long, Li Yu's martial arts cultivation had changed a lot. However, his soul cultivation had remained at the ghost immortal realm, and he had not even transcended a single lightning tribulation. This was because Li Yu had not created his own great Tao, so he could not transcend the lightning tribulation. At this moment, inspired by the Book of Changes, Li Yu had found his own great Tao to control all things in the world. Once the great Tao was formed, everything would follow naturally. His soul left his body and soared into the sky like a cool breeze. Rumble! Thunder rolled and lightning flashed. Li Yu's soul plunged into the thunderclouds that filled the sky. The first lightning tribulation, from Yin to Yang. The second lightning tribulation, from the division of thoughts. The third lightning tribulation, from the creation of lightning. The fourth lightning tribulation, from the creation of a realm with a thought. The fifth lightning tribulation, from the whim. The sixth lightning tribulation, from the void. The seventh lightning tribulation, from the void. The eighth lightning tribulation, from the refining of the soul. The ninth lightning tribulation, from the lightning to water. The huge reserve of soul power allowed Li Yu to advance by leaps and bounds. In an instant, he rushed from the first lightning tribulation to the ninth lightning tribulation. After the cleansing of the ninth lightning tribulation, Li Yu's soul turned into 129,600 brilliant and pure thoughts. Every thought shone brightly, and the brilliant light illuminated the world, like 129,600 brilliant suns. What is heaven and earth? I am heaven and earth. 129,600 thoughts condensed instantly, and the light converged, turning into a mass of chaos. The world originated from chaos. When chaos was created, yin and yang evolved. A ray of light flashed through the chaos, as if it was splitting heaven and earth. The gray chaotic chi instantly separated, and the black and white chi of yin and yang were born. Yin and yang evolved, and time and space flowed. Light and darkness alternated, and all things were born. Yin and yang were born, and time and space were born. Light and darkness were also born. Then, a stream of black and yellow chi was born from the evolution of yin and yang. The sun, moon, starry sky, wind, clouds, thunder, lightning, mountains, rivers, flowers, birds, insects, fish, all things were born. Among them, the 5 elements were born and suppressed, and matter was transformed. Everything was reincarnated. During this evolution, the 8 trigrams of heaven, earth, wind, thunder, water, fire, mountain, and pond appeared. They intertwined and combined to form 64 trigrams. Everything in the world was in the evolution of the trigrams. When I pretended to be the sun god and shouted, "My name is you," the phenomenon that appeared became my own great Tao in the end. The phenomenon that filled the sky disappeared, and Li Yu's soul body appeared. This soul body was ordinary and did not have the slightest earth-shattering phenomenon. However, it contained the most fundamental truth of heaven and earth. At this point, Li Yu's body had already undergone countless changes, and his soul had transcended 9 lightning tribulations. Next, it was time to become a sun god. Chapter 269. His spirit turned into a breeze and returned to his body. Li Yu slowly opened his eyes amidst the dazzling divine radiance that radiated from him. Endless scenes of heaven and earth flowed through Li Yu's eyes. After letting out a long breath, Li Yu stood up with a smile on his face. After all my scheming, this moment has finally arrived. Li Yu looked up at the sky. At a glance, the principles of heaven and earth, and the way of the changes of the wind and clouds were all in his mind. In a quarter of an hour, 500 miles away from the West Mountain, an ancient tree will be struck by lightning. In an instant, Li Yu calculated what was about to happen through the laws of the wind and clouds. Even though Li Yu had absorbed the concept of the Book of Changes, it was only to create his own great Tao. But Li Yu still retained the basic ability of the Book of Changes to calculate all things in heaven and earth. He combined the enormous calculation ability of the Master of the Future, the forwarding secret of the 9 esotericas, and the ability to see through all things with the calculation ability of the Book of Changes. At this moment, Li Yu's soul calculation ability seemed to be better than Hong Yi's, the original author of the Book of Changes. Now is the time to combine soul and body and ascend to the Sun Spirit. Li Yu had already experimented with the problem of combining soul and body on the Marquis Champion. Based on this experiment, the system had deduced countless times and had reached the final conclusion. But my spirit is not complete yet. Li Yu smiled and shook his head. He took a step forward and instantly arrived at the water curtain cave of Huagua Mountain. Monkey, Ao Luan, and Qilin were all fighting in the illusion. Li Yu did not disturb them and walked alone to a hall in the main hall. This hall in the water curtain cave was originally the stronghold of them all. It was completely Li Yu's own property, so it was naturally easy to use. Fortunately, I've already built the stronghold of them all. Otherwise, I would really be stuck here and unable to ascend to the Sun Spirit level. Li Yu chuckled. With a thought, he instantly connected to the mall through the stronghold and sent a message to the Green Lotus avatar. This was the reason why Li Yu's spirit had yet to reach perfection. This was because he had already separated a part of his divine soul and refined it into a Green Lotus avatar. If he didn't retrieve this soul, he wouldn't be able to reach perfection. With a wave of his hand, his vast and boundless power poured into the merchant city stronghold, activating a spatial link. With a flash of clear light, the Blue Lotus avatar appeared in front of Li Yu. The moment their divine souls touched, the information exchange was completed in an instant. The Green Lotus avatar chuckled and immediately sat down cross-legged. Soul fusion! Li Yu shouted. A beam of light shot out from the top of the Blue Lotus avatar's head and entered Li Yu's spiritual sea. Boom! There was an intense tremor. The 129,600 thoughts of the ninth stage lightning tribulation divine soul suddenly burst out with a brilliant light. Although the Blue Lotus avatar only had Li Yu's divine soul, this divine soul was born and strengthened from the power of the divine soul of the Great Success sacred body. The power of the divine soul was extremely vast. The majestic divine soul of the avatar was vast and boundless, like the sea of stars. It was even more powerful than Li Yu's divine soul of the ninth stage lightning tribulation. Fortunately, the two were originally one, so there was no hindrance in the fusion. Once the fusion was completed, Li Yu's divine soul was so vast that it seemed to cover the entire upper-class world. When the divine soul was perfected, it was time to become a sun god. System, send me the method of soul and body fusion. The system immediately sent the method of soul and body fusion that it had deduced to become a sun god. After receiving the method sent by the system, Li Yu didn't use it immediately. Instead, he used the deduction ability of his divine soul to recalculate the results of the system's deduction. Sure enough, there's no problem. Li Yu nodded and a smile appeared on his face. The body had 129,600 acupoints, and the divine soul had 129,600 thoughts. The soul and body fusion was to integrate these 129,600 thoughts into the acupoints of the body, using the divine soul's thoughts to command the entire body. Then let's begin. Li Yu's body shook, and the 129,600 acupoints of his body opened. Mighty chi and blood rushed out, and endless divine brilliance bloomed. With a thought, thoughts flew out and instantly fell into the acupoints of his body. Clang! A mighty heavenly sound rang out. The divine soul entered the body, and the soul and body fused. After countless exercises, the most correct method was naturally the best one. Naturally, there wouldn't be any accident. With a lot of preparation, everything came naturally. Boom! A mighty pure yang qi rushed into the sky, and an aura that was above all things in the world erupted. Heaven and earth shook and the void trembled. Once the sun god was formed, it was as if a scorching sun had jumped out of the pitch-black night sky, shining brightly and illuminating the world. Fortunately, Li Yu had already asked the system to cover up this aura. Others only felt that the world was shaking. At most, they thought that someone was fighting with a big move. They wouldn't think that there was a witness to the sun god. Otherwise, after Emperor Yu had become a sun god, another one had become a sun god. This was too scary. How could people live? Boom! With a loud explosion, Li Yu's entire body exploded, turning into light spots that filled the sky. The 480 million origin talismans and 129,600 thoughts instantly fused into one. With a thought, the light spots that filled the sky instantly gathered into 129,600 thoughts, and then scattered into 480 million talismans. The thoughts were talismans, and the talismans were thoughts. The soul and body were one, and there was no distinction between them. After becoming a sun god, one's chi, blood, and soul were indistinguishable. It was truly remarkable and boundless. Li Yu's figure appeared once more, and he returned to his original appearance. Is this the sun god? Feeling the vast and boundless power in his body, Li Yu smiled slightly. At this level, he could move mountains, fill seas, and destroy heaven and earth with a raise of his hand. After pretending to be a sun god for so long, only now could he be considered the real Emperor Yu Huang. All this time, he had been using the power of the system to show off. It was not until now that he truly had power that belonged completely to him. The mighty power belongs to me. Very good. He gently clenched his fist, and the void in his palm was crushed. This was the power of the sun god. When the soul and body became one, every minute part of the body and soul was under one's control. The flow of blood and the growth of hair were all under one's control. The soul was crystal clear, spotless, and as clear as glass. Since birth, all memories and experiences were in one's mind. But Liu took a deep breath and asked softly, "System, where are you?" After becoming a sun god, the soul was as pure as one, and no impurities could be hidden. However, Liu did not find the system that was bound to his soul. "Hello, respected user. The system is ready for your instructions." The system's rigid and cold voice still sounded in his ears, but Liu did not find any signs of the system's existence. "System, where do you exist? Or rather, in what state do you exist?" Liu, who was in the sun god realm, was already in control of every part of his body, whether it was his body or his soul. However, he could not find the system, which surprised him. The system does not exist in the general concept. According to what the user can understand, the system is a kind of information that is similar to a quantum form. A quantum form? Not in this place, not in that place, everywhere, and not in any one place. It may exist, but it may not exist? What the hell? The corner of Liu's mouth twitched a few times. He could not understand the system's inexplicable way of existence. Forget it. I can't understand the system for the time being, and I can't figure it out. Let's not worry about it for now. Liu ignored the system's way of existence and focused on himself. After becoming a sun god, I have a lifespan of 129,600 years. However, this is not enough. The lifespan of 129,600 years for a sun god was not short, but it was not eternal life. If I want to achieve true longevity and eternal immortality, I can only transcend the sea of bitterness and reach the other side. Only in this way can I jump out of the three realms and not be in the five elements. Only then can I truly control my own fate. After becoming a sun god, Liu also had some understanding of the way to transcend the sea of bitterness. In the sun god realm, he could shatter the vacuum, and then use the great power of the great ambition to transcend the sea of bitterness in one fell swoop, break free from the shackles of heaven and earth, jump out of the three realms, and not be in the five elements. Forget about the great ambition. Let's shatter the vacuum first. Chapter 270. Liu did not lack experience in shattering the vacuum. Among the two young gods who had delivered themselves to him, whether it was the longevity emperor or Taoist creation, they were both young gods and existences that could shatter the vacuum. Shattering the vacuum was a martial arts cultivation method of the physical body, and its power was not inferior to that of the young god. What is vacuum? Vacuum is not the space between heaven and earth. It is truth and emptiness. The concept of shattering the vacuum circulated in Liu's mind, and in a moment, Liu had a deep understanding of it. Truth is reality. Emptiness is illusory. Shattering the vacuum is breaking the boundary between reality and illusory. The martial will was an illusory will. Even if the fist intent was substantial, it would only interfere with reality with tyrannical will, and not turn one's martial will into a real existence between heaven and earth. Shattering the vacuum was breaking the boundary between reality and illusory, and turning one's martial will into a real existence between heaven and earth. In all the heavens and myriad worlds, only I am supreme. My power surpasses the heavens. This is the truth, this is the truth, this is a real existence. A vast and boundless will rushed up with a loud bang. Crack! The sound of glass shattering rang out between heaven and earth. The boundary between reality and illusory had been broken, and the shackles had been broken, and the flood dragon had broken free. At this point, Liu had already shattered the vacuum, achieved the young god, and stood at the top of this world. However, this was still not eternal life. To be truly eternal, one had to transcend the sea of bitterness and reach the other shore. To transcend the sea of bitterness and reach the other shore, I still need the power of great aspirations. Thinking of this, Liu frowned slightly. Great aspirations were very similar to the Tao of the main world. To understand one's own Tao, practice one's own Tao, and finally achieve one's own Tao. To really complete a great aspiration, the process would be very long. Take EZ's great aspiration of everyone becoming a dragon, for example. To really achieve everyone becoming a dragon, who knew how long it would take? Of course, the great aspiration of this world did not wait until the great aspiration was completed to transcend the sea of bitterness and reach the other shore. It was similar to how Buddha had made 48 great vows and borrowed the power of these vows to become a grand mist saint. Then, in the endless years to come, he would focus on fulfilling these great ambitions. If Huang Xiaolong didn't keep his word and didn't fulfill his grand wishes, then he would be entangled in endless karma. Even a grand mist saint would fall into the depths of hell and never be able to rise again. How could a person like Liu do something like great ambition? The so-called great aspiration force is actually the aspiration force of all living beings in the world. Only by receiving the blessings of all living beings in the world did I transcend the sea of bitterness and reach the other shore. Liu smiled, clenched his fist, and raised it in front of his eyes. The great aspiration force is also a kind of power. As long as he had enough power, why would he need to have grand ambitions? Using strength to prove one's Tao is also the right path. Turning his head to look at the blue lotus avatar sitting cross-legged on the ground, Liu smiled and nodded. When the blue lotus avatar attained the Tao, didn't it also attain the Tao through strength? Let's not talk about attaining the Tao for now. I still have to deal with the blue lotus avatar. Looking at the blue lotus avatar, Liu's heart stirred. This world also has an avatar technique. Let's refine the blue lotus avatar once again. Huang Xiaolong's body shook and exploded into 480 million light spots. The sky full of light spots whizzed out and rushed into the blue lotus avatar's body. Boom! The 480 million light spots rushed into the blue lotus avatar's body, and an endless radiance bloomed. The blue lotus avatar suddenly exploded and turned into 480 million light spots. The blue lotus avatar turned into light spots and emitted a vibrant green light. The light spots on Liu's body flickered with purplish gold flames. The two light spots blended together, merging into one and dispersing in the next. After a while, the light spots returned to their respective positions. Liu and the blue lotus avatar appeared once again. Ha 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 ha! Liu and the blue lotus avatar looked at each other and laughed loudly. This time, after refining the blue lotus avatar again, the blue lotus avatar also possessed the vacuum-shattering and sun spirit realm. Not only did it have a lifespan of 129,600 years, but it could also be reborn from a drop of blood. According to the avatar technique of this world, the blue lotus avatar also had the ability to merge with the main body at any time after being refined again. Once it merged with the avatar, Liu's strength would immediately double. It was simply boundless. The blue lotus avatar was originally refined with the heart of the demon god, the divine will of the great success divine body, and Liu's Tao spirit. Its strength was earth-shattering. With this foundation, once it was refined, it naturally possessed the vacuum-shattering and sun spirit realm power. You go back and take care of Kangwu Mountain first. I'll be back in a few days. Liu instructed the blue lotus avatar. The blue lotus avatar smiled and nodded. It opened the spatial link to the mall's stronghold. With a flash of clear light, it disappeared without a trace. Let's go back to the West Mountain Valley first. I won't disturb the monkey and the rest. Liu took a step forward. With a flash of clear light, he returned to the West Mountain Valley in the next instant. Next, I have to think about how to prove my Tao through strength. Passing through the wave-like light screen, Liu returned to the heavenly tomb space and sat down in the hall again. If we're talking about proving my Tao through strength, is there any power stronger than the Great Emperor? So, it's time to cultivate the No Beginning Sutra again. Before entering this world, Liu had used the No Beginning Sutra as the foundation of his strength until he reached the peak of the dragon realm. His body had been cultivated to the extreme, and he needed to enter the spirit realm. Only then did he stop. To cultivate the spirit, the sun-spirit great path of this world was naturally more suitable. Now, his body and spirit had reached the pinnacle of this world. It was necessary to cultivate the No Beginning Sutra again and obtain the power to transcend the Nirvana realm. Sitting cross-legged on the ground, Liu circulated the No Beginning Sutra. A purplish-gold divine light bloomed, and endless visions appeared. The vast sea of bitterness, the pure and majestic life spring, the colorful divine bridge, and the Nirvana realm that was like a pure land. The sea of reincarnation's secret realm appeared again. Then, the 5 qi in his chest rushed out, and the 5 organs in his Tao palace erupted with brilliant light. His limbs were like the 4 extremes of heaven and earth, supporting the sky and the sea. His spine was like a dragon, rising and falling, and his divine power was overwhelming. From the sea of reincarnation to the dragon realm, the visions of the 4 realms appeared one by one. Vast divine might shook heaven and earth, and the vision of the great circle of the dragon realm was fully displayed. After the great circle of the dragon realm, one would be like a fish leaping over the dragon gate, reaching the heavens in a single step. Along the spine, one would ascend to the immortal foundation and step into the spirit refinement realm. At this point, one would be able to look down on heaven and earth, and see how small the mountains were. At the 9th level of immortal foundation, each step was a world of difference. Unparalleled divine might, invincible divine abilities, boundless magic power, everything was here. If one wanted to obtain the capital to prove their Tao through strength, if one wanted to replace the mighty power of the great ambition, everything was at the 9th level of immortal foundation. The 9th level of immortal foundation was like the 9th level of heaven and earth. With my current accumulation, I wonder what level of immortal foundation I can reach? Liu took a deep breath. Endless divine power gathered, and along the dragon-like spine, rushed up to the immortal foundation. Boom! Brilliant divine light erupted, and endless divine flames illuminated heaven and earth. Liu stepped onto the immortal foundation and opened the path to the heavens. Chapter 271. The first level of the immortal foundation was a world of its own. Immortal clouds lingered in the air, and the scenery of the endless immortal palaces flowed before his eyes. Ding! Clang! After Liu's divine soul rushed into the first level of the immortal foundation, a majestic heavenly sound rang out in the endless immortal palaces. The great Tao resonated, heaven and man connected. Streams of light intertwined, and Liu's divine soul merged with the streams of light, comprehending the truth of the great Tao between the body and the soul, man and heaven and earth. I see. Comprehending the cultivation of the immortal foundation realm and comparing it to the great Tao of the sun god, Liu discovered that the immortal foundation cultivation of the immortal foundation was completely different from the sun god's divine soul cultivation. The immortal foundation cultivation of the immortal foundation cultivates qi, blood, and soul at the same time from the beginning. On the other hand, the sun god cultivation method separates the body and soul at the beginning, and only at the end does the soul and body become one. Comprehending the difference between the two, Liu smiled slightly. Now that my soul and body have become one, I have advanced to the sun god level. It will be very convenient to cultivate the immortal foundation now. Boom! With a violent explosion, The endless immortal palaces in front of him exploded. His divine soul soared into the sky, blasted open a layer of barrier, and rushed into another world. Having comprehended the secrets of the immortal foundation, Liu did not stop and advanced by leaps and bounds. The first level of the immortal foundation, half-step almighty. The second level of the immortal foundation, half-step almighty. The third level of the immortal foundation, half-step king. The fourth level of the immortal foundation, half-step sage. The fifth level of the immortal foundation, half-step sage. After breaking through 5 levels of the immortal foundation and reaching the sage realm, the speed of his cultivation slowed down. Am I already a sage? Liu exhaled and stopped cultivating, a joyful smile appearing on his face. Using the power of the sun god and the crushing vacuum, he rushed to the 5th level of the immortal foundation in one go. His cultivation speed was unbelievably fast. After reaching the sage realm, the speed of advancement slowed down, and it was impossible to rush up in one go. According to my current strength, it should be between the great sage and the sub-emperor. Now that I have reached the sage realm, it is impossible for me to reach the sage king, great sage, and sub-emperor level. The two cultivation systems were different, and the higher the realm, the harder it was to convert them. According to Liu's calculations, it would take about half a year to refine the power of the yang spirit with the endless scripture. At that time, he would already be a great sage or a quasi-emperor. Innate saint body, Tao embryo, cultivates the no beginning sutra, and then cultivates the saint body secret art. Once the cultivation was successful, this power would be extremely powerful. I want to see if I can transcend beyond the nirvana realm without using the power of great aspirations. His own path of cultivation was already very clear. Liu was not in a hurry to cultivate. Instead, he put his mind on his future plans. The chess game of this world has to continue. Liu smiled and calculated with his fingers. He had an idea. Master Yi has written the Book of Changes. Is he going to start lecturing now? The great Qian dynasty was at odds with him, so he naturally wouldn't promote the e-school. Then we can only go overseas. Looking in the direction of the sea, Liu chuckled. It's time for the immortal monument at the bottom of the East Sea to appear. The 5 immortal monuments were supreme treasures refined by the Longevity Emperor. They were the top divine weapons in the world. Each steel had a primordial demon god sealed within it. One of the 2 yang spirit thoughts that he had sent to him came from the Longevity Emperor. Liu was already familiar with all the information about the immortal monument. It was easy for him to deal with them. He waved his hand and took out a piece of jade. With a swipe of his hand, it turned into a talisman. After putting the talisman into the resource vault of the somersault cloud, Liu sent a message to the monkey. Wu, take the Qilin and Aoluan. Take my talisman and go to the bottom of the sea 3,000 miles south of Huagua Mountain. There is a fortuitous opportunity there. Yes. The monkey, Aoluan, and the Qilin were fighting in the Yuan Copper Palace. Hearing Liu's words, the monkey was overjoyed and hurriedly agreed. Hey, stop fooling around, stop fooling around. Lord has pointed out a fortuitous opportunity for us. Let's go. Let's go. The monkey shouted at Aoluan and the Qilin, and closed the virtual illusion. Fortuitous opportunity? The fortuitous opportunity that Lord has pointed out must be extraordinary. Aoluan and the Qilin's eyes lit up. They hurriedly followed the monkey out of the Yuan Copper Palace. The somersault cloud whizzed through the air and flew towards the location that Liu had pointed out. Lord said that our fortuitous opportunity is at the bottom of the sea, 3,000 miles south of Huagua Mountain. The monkey stopped the somersault cloud above the sea. After looking around for a while, he nodded. This place is exactly 3,000 miles away from Huagua Mountain. It should be here. Didn't he say it's at the bottom of the sea? Why are we stopping above the sea? Let's go down. Aeolwan waved his dragon claws at the sea. Huge waves rolled in the sea below. As the waves surged, a path to the bottom of the sea was formed. This water manipulation technique is not bad. The monkey looked at Aeolwan with admiration. He rode the somersault cloud and rushed into the path that Aeolwan had created. "Brother monkey, you flatter me." Aeolwan smiled and retracted his dragon claws in embarrassment. Given the monkey's capabilities, it wasn't difficult for him to ride the somersault cloud to the bottom of the sea. Her method of controlling the water and parting the waves was a little redundant. It seemed like she was just showing off. In an instant, the somersault cloud arrived at the bottom of the sea. "Is it here?" The monkey looked around and realized that it was an underwater volcano that had been silent for a long time. In the pitch-black rock stratum, there was a strong smell of sulfur. He reached out and took out the talisman that Liu had given him. After injecting his blood essence into the talisman, the green jade talisman lit up with a spiritual light. The spiritual light pointed to the bottom of the sea. "We still have to go down?" The monkey smiled and turned to the Qilin. "Qilin, it's up to you now." "No problem." The Qilin nodded and spat out a stream of yellow gas that enveloped the entire somersault cloud. "Brother monkey, this is the earth tunneling technique. Let's go." "Not bad. You've only been under the Lord for such a short time. You've improved quite quickly." The monkey grinned and drove the somersault cloud into the ground. A bright yellow stream of light circled around the somersault cloud. The monkey rode the somersault cloud and sped off. Even with the somersault cloud's speed, it took them an hour to arrive at the destination indicated by the talisman. "This is the earth veins milk, the essence of the earth?" In front of them was a milky white ocean that shone with a spiritual light. A vast, majestic, and vigorous aura of life emanated from the milky white sea, causing one to feel relaxed and happy. The essence of the earth is the source of all vitality on the earth. It's where the earth nurtures all living things. Qilin took a deep breath and an intoxicated expression appeared on his face. "Forget about the essence of the earth. Our target is over there." The monkey interrupted the Qilin's exclamation and pointed to the front. There, in the milky white ocean, there was a huge platform that rose from the sea. On this platform there was a huge stone tablet that was 100 feet tall. At the sight of this stone tablet, a powerful aura that could suppress the heavens and make all living things bow their heads pressed down on their hearts. The monkey, Aeolwan, and the Qilin shuddered. They understood that this must be the opportunity that His Majesty Emperor Yu had mentioned. Chapter 272. Let's go. Monkey called out as he rode the somersault cloud and landed on the stone tablet platform. It was as if they had entered another dimension. The platform in front of them suddenly became extremely huge. It was a vast and boundless plaza. The entire plaza was as white as jade. It was as if the entire plaza was paved with white jade. The pure white ground was covered with mysterious runes. A majestic aura spread out. Every rune seemed to be carved with the great Tao of heaven and earth. "What is that?" Aeolwan pointed at the huge stone tablet in the plaza with a shocked expression. It was a huge square stone tablet. There were no words on the stone tablet. There was only the carving of a fiend celestial with the upper body of a human and the lower body of a scorpion. Primordial fiend celestial. Qilin's face was filled with shock. As a follower of the Holy Emperor, Qilin naturally knew how terrifying the primordial fiend celestials were. The legendary kings of the 5 primordial fiend celestials had earth-shattering strength. They were not inferior to the sun god emperor. Now, there was a statue of the primordial fiend celestial here? What was this place? What exactly was this stone tablet? Was the opportunity that His Majesty Emperor Yu was talking about this fiend celestial stone tablet? Qilin was a little nervous. The primordial fiend celestial was not something that they could provoke with their strength. Isn't it just a statue? What's there to be afraid of? Monkey curled his lips in disdain. He walked forward and glanced at the fiend celestial statue on the stone tablet. Even a daring fellow like the monkey was shocked by what he saw. Hiss! It's alive? When Monkey looked at the fiend celestial statue, he suddenly realized that the fiend celestial statue was also looking at him. The pair of jade-green eyes even blinked. Boom! The surrounding space shook violently. Who disturbed this king's slumber? A loud voice echoed between heaven and earth. The fiend celestial statue on the stone tablet suddenly moved. Its body trembled slightly, and a 1,000-foot-long fiend celestial with a human head and a scorpion body stepped out of the stone tablet. Godly ape? Qilin? True dragon? The gigantic demon god walked towards them with heavy footsteps. Even your ancestors have to bow before me. How dare you disturb my slumber? An extremely terrifying aura came from all directions. This terrifying aura could trigger the fear hidden in the hearts of others. This was the Fear Fiend King's innate ability, the spirit of fear. Fear Fiend King? Qilin's heart was filled with endless fear. Qilin had long heard of the primordial dreadlord's tyrannical and terrifying power. Qilin instantly trembled under this dreadful spiritual qi. Aolwan didn't know what kind of existence the Fear Demon King was. He was slightly better off than the Qilin, but his face was still pale and cold sweat appeared on his forehead. You're just a scorpion spirit and you're talking about me? Monkey was an audacious fellow. In his heart, Liu was number 1, he was number 2, and even God was number 3. How could he know what fear was? How could he know what fear was? I don't care if you're a demon king or not, I'll smash you with my staff first. Scorpion spirit, take this. Monkey roared and stepped on the ground with his lotus-like cloud-walking shoes. The golden chainmail on his body shone brightly. The 2 long feathers of the phoenix feather purple gold crown on his head suddenly swayed. The 1,000-pound rod in his hand was raised high and smashed down heavily. Poof! The dazzling purple gold coiled dragon cudgel smashed down on the demon god's head, creating a sound like a bubble bursting. Then, the incomparably terrifying demon god, the jade-white square, everything in front of him exploded with a loud bang and disappeared without a trace under the impact of this staff. Huh? So weak? Monkey was taken aback and was a little confused. So it's an illusion? Realm of nightmare? Qilin regained his senses and exposed the Fear Fiend King's move. After the illusion shattered, the real scene appeared in front of everyone. It was still a jade-white square and a stone tablet that was 100 feet tall. There was also a statue of the demon god on it. However, this square was no longer boundless and the statue of the demon god was no longer that huge. So this is the work of this scorpion spirit? Monkey sneered and picked up the 1,000-pound rod. With a somersault, he swung the rod and smashed it down on the statue of the demon god. Insolent! Suddenly, an extremely furious roar burst out from the stone tablet. With a loud bang, a multicolored radiance rushed out from the devil god's statue. The power of the demon god. Terrifying fist. The 5-colored brilliance transformed into a huge fist and smashed down toward the monkey. Boom! The entire space shook violently. The void shattered and the heaven and earth yuan qi shattered. Everything that stood in the way of this fist was smashed into pieces. Under this fist there was boundless divine power. It was as though even the sky was going to be smashed and the ground was going to be penetrated. This power was unstoppable. Bam! Monkey's 1,000-pound rod and this devastating fist collided heavily, causing an earth-shattering explosion. Poof! Monkey's bones cracked and he spat out blood. The huge force sent Monkey flying out of the sea formed by the earth vein mill. He crashed into the underground rock stratum, causing the rock stratum to shake violently. "Brother Monkey!" Aolwan exclaimed. His dragon body soared into the sky and he swung his dragon claws. Rays of bone-chilling sword light whizzed out and slashed at the statue of the demon god. Qilin seal. The Qilin stomped heavily on the ground and opened its mouth to spit out a yellow beam of light. It transformed into a Qilin seal out of thin air and smashed down heavily on the demon god. "How dare an ant like you offend me?" The roar of the demon god came from the stone tablet again. Terrifying tide. The fist condensed from the 5-colored brilliance suddenly exploded, turning into a 5-colored torrent, surging like a raging tide, covering the sky and covering the earth. Bam! Bam! Under the attack of the 5-colored torrent, Aeolwan and Qilin couldn't resist at all. They were sent flying with blood spurting out. What the F***ck? Monkey only knows how to use brute force. Liu didn't pay attention to the process of Monkey and the rest searching for treasures. It was only after they were sent flying by the Dreadfiend King that Liu heard the notification from the system and looked over. Going head-on against a demon god who has crushed the vacuum. Monkey, you are really… Liu shook his head speechlessly. If not for the fact that the Dreadfiend King was still trapped and couldn't use much of his strength. At this moment, Liu could already collect the corpses of Monkey and the rest. Brother Monkey, the Dreadfiend King's strength is comparable to the Holy Emperor. There's no way we can defeat him. At this moment, Qilin struggled to get up. He turned to Monkey and shouted, "Brother Monkey, the Lord asked us to search for opportunities. He definitely didn't ask us to court death. Did you forget something?" Chapter 273. Monkey is too immature. Liu shook his head. This guy is only suitable to be a fighter. We can't let him control the merchant city anymore. Luckily, we still have Aeolwan and Qilin. They will be in charge in the future. Monkey will only be in charge of killing people. Liu sighed speechlessly. In the underground space, what did I forget? Monkey wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and was about to pick up his club to continue fighting when he heard Qilin's shout. He was shocked and recalled Liu's instructions. Talisman. Oh right, Lord mentioned talisman. Monkey took out the jade talisman and scratched his head awkwardly. He grinned. Lord asked me to use the talisman to find opportunities. I forgot about it when I started fighting. Qilin and Aeolwan looked at the sky speechlessly. How could he forget such an important thing? Brother Monkey, we were almost beaten to death. Monkey knew that he had made a mistake and laughed dryly. He raised the talisman and poured his blood essence into it. A bright light bloomed and the talisman flew out. A stream of light flashed and the talisman flew to the top of the demon god's stone tablet. It bloomed with a radiance like the rising sun. The radiance covered the entire platform. Buzz, the runes on the platform were activated. Streams of light flashed in the runes and a huge array was activated. The huge energy caused the entire underground space to shake. Immortal True Talisman. Didn't the Immortal Emperor use the talisman to control the Immortal Monument disappear during the Primordial Era? Why do you still have the Immortal True Talisman? After the array was activated, the huge energy shrouded the entire demon god's stone tablet. The stone tablet shrank continuously. The feared demon god let out a desperate roar from the stone tablet. Just give me a little more time and I will be able to break free. The Immortal Emperor's seal won't be able to trap me anymore. Just a little more, just a little more. I, the feared demon god, have dominated the Primordial Era. Other than the Immortal Emperor, even Pan Huang can't do anything to me. Am I going to die in the hands of a few ant-like juniors today? I can't accept this. Dread Demon King roared madly and struggled with all his might, but he couldn't break free from the imprisonment of the formation. He could only let the formation suppress him. So it's that simple. Monkey scratched his head and laughed awkwardly. Aeolwan and the Qilin rolled their eyes at the monkey. It was a simple matter of collecting treasures and throwing a talisman, but you actually made it a narrow escape. There was no need to say anything about your ability. No. Never. I, the Terror Demon King, would rather die than submit. I will never allow anyone to order me around. The stone tablet was getting smaller and smaller, and Dread Demon King was about to be suppressed along with the immortal monument. At this time, Dread Demon King let out a crazy roar, and a crack appeared on the head of the demon god statue. A 5-colored speck of light suddenly shot out from the crack in the statue. Like a seed, after breaking out of the shell, the 5-colored light spot flashed and disappeared in an instant. Huh! Monkey, Aolwan and the Qilin exchanged glances. Caught off guard, they couldn't even stop it in time and let the speck of light escape. This, Monkey scratched his head and laughed dryly. This should be an accident, right? That's a demon seed. The Qilin was knowledgeable and recognized the origin of that speck of light. He explained to Monkey and Aolwan. Dread Demon King gave up his cultivation and turned his will into a demon seed. He wants to be reincarnated by the demon seed. He threw away all his cultivation, and only the demonic seed escaped? Then it doesn't matter. Monkey waved his hand nonchalantly. Without power, even if he reincarnates, he won't be able to do anything. Let's not care about him. The demon seed is formed from the memories of Dread Demon King. It contains all of his cultivation experience and understanding. If he really succeeds in his reincarnation, it won't be long before he cultivates to the demon god realm. By then, he'll be in trouble. The Qilin sighed and looked worriedly in the direction where the demon seed disappeared. What are you worried about? The Supremacy asked us to look for an opportunity. This should be within the Supremacy's expectations. Since the Supremacy didn't say anything, that means we don't have to bother about it. Aolwan interjected and soared into the air, flying towards the stone tablet square. Yes, yes. Monkey chuckled and also rushed towards the stone tablet square. All right. The Qilin shook his head and also flew towards the stone tablet square. The light in the square had already dissipated and the activated array was silent again. There was only a small stone tablet in front of them. The talisman that activated the array had already turned into dust and scattered on the ground. Is this the opportunity that the Supremacy mentioned? Monkey stretched out his hand and grabbed the stone tablet that was about 10 feet long. It seems there's nothing special about it? Dread Demon King already said that this is an immortal monument. Legend had it that the Longevity Emperor had sealed the 5 primordial demon gods within the 5 immortal monument. This should be one of the immortal monument. The Qilin also looked curiously at the immortal monument in Monkey's hand. He wanted to see what the opportunity was. Brother Monkey, since it's the Longevity Emperor's treasure, you won't be able to see anything special about it. Why don't you try injecting your chi and vital energy into the stone tablet? Aolwan used to be the Sky Dragon Taoist master of the Yunmeng sacred ground and naturally had some knowledge. Is that so? Let's give it a try. If the Supremacy said it was an opportunity, then it must be an opportunity. Monkey immediately injected his chi and vital energy into the stone tablet. Boom! Stimulated by the monkey's chi and vital energy, the entire stone tablet shone brightly. A vast and boundless energy rushed into the monkey's body. This was all the energy that the Dread Demon King had left in the stone tablet. An immemorial demon god was in existence that could shatter space. This energy was extremely powerful. Damn it! The monkey's chi and vital energy surged. He felt that he was about to explode from this vast energy. He hurriedly shouted to the Qilin and Aolwan, "Quick, this opportunity is too great. I can't take it all alone." Coming. The Qilin and Aolwan immediately understood what was going on. They hurriedly rushed forward to receive this vast and boundless energy. The Supremacy's plan is flawless. This is indeed a great opportunity. How could they not know that this was an opportunity when this vast energy surged into their bodies? They hurriedly circulated their cultivation techniques to absorb this energy. Fortunately, they were all mythical beasts. If they were ordinary people, they would have exploded. Even so, the vast and boundless energy surged into their bodies. The monkey and Ao Luan could only circulate their cultivation techniques with all their might and borrow this energy to break through their cultivation realms. Only then could they prevent themselves from exploding. Fist intent materialized, blood rebirth, and then bam, bam, bam. After 3 consecutive explosions, the monkey, Ao Luan, and the Qilin's bodies exploded at the same time, turning into light spots that filled the sky. The monkey turned into a ball of dazzling golden light spots, the Qilin turned into a ball of earthy yellow light spots, and Ao Luan turned into a ball of pure white light spots. Ha 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 ha! A burst of laughter rang out. 3 balls of light gathered and 3 figures appeared. The monkey was a tall and muscular young man with a head of golden hair. The Ao Luan was a beautiful young lady with a head of silver hair. The Qilin was a stocky young man with a simple and honest face. At this moment, the 3 of them had reached the shape-shifting realm. The supremacy is great. The supremacy is mighty. The 3 of them fell to the ground and kowtowed heavily in the direction of the West Mountain. Chapter 274. Not bad. Liu saw that monkey, Ao Luan, and the Qilin had all reached the shape-shifting realm and could transform into human forms at will. Liu was very satisfied with this. Monkey, your current strength is not bad. After you have stabilized your cultivation, you can find that monkey, Kong, and take back the other half of your name. Wukong, this is a name that suits you. At this moment, Monkey and the other 2 had already kept the immortal monument and left the underground space. But, Fear Fiend King's demonic seed has been reincarnated? Liu nodded with a smile on his face. This is also within my expectations. Walking out of the loft, Liu looked towards the sea with a mysterious smile. At this moment, Hong Yi is going to the Yun country to give a lecture. Fear Fiend King, will you take over Hong Yi's body? In the vast sea, Hong Yi wore a simple robe and stood at the bow of the ship with his hands behind his back. His aura was as vast as the sea and he was like a saint. His peerless demeanor was enchanting. As he remembered that all his knowledge came from the great Zen temple's 3 scriptures, his achievements today were inseparable from the great Zen temple's legacy. Before Hong Yi went out to give a lecture, he went to the great Zen temple's ruins to pay his respects. Who would have thought that he would actually discover a hidden space beneath the great Zen temple? As a result, Hong Yi obtained the Tathagata Kasaya under the great Zen temple. From the Tathagata Kasaya, Hong Yi comprehended the Vajra Prajna Paramitha Tao left behind by Yuan. This made him understand that in order to transcend the Nirvana realm, he had to have the power of a great ambition. My lifelong wish is for everyone to be like a dragon and for everyone to be able to control their own destiny. With this great ambition, Hong Yi truly became the easy. Following the ideals of the 100 sages and following the trend of heaven and earth, his thoughts were clear and his mind was clear. There were no more obstacles in his path of cultivation. This lecture is to practice the Tao of everyone being like a dragon. As long as people study the Book of Changes, they will definitely have the power to control their own destiny. Hong Yi raised his eyes to look at the land in the distance, and the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. Gotcha! At this moment, a bolt of lightning fell from the sky. The dazzling electric light bombarded a small island in front of them. A flame suddenly rose from the small island. It seemed that the dead wood had been ignited by the lightning fire. Seeing this scene, Hong Yi suddenly had a sudden impulse, and the Book of Changes hexagram flowed in his mind. Thunder is Zhen, fire is Li. Zhen up and down is Feng. 94. Feng Qi Feng, in the middle of the day to see a battle, meeting a barbarian master, auspicious. Feng hexagram? Looks like I've gained a lot from this trip. Was the so-called E-Lord referring to the Chu Yun monarch? However, why would they fight in the middle of the day? Stars appear in the sunlight? Just as Hong Yi was calculating, there was another explosion in the sky. Looking up, he saw a ball of light suddenly burst out from the sunlight above his head. A five-colored ball of light rushed out from the void, shining as brightly as the stars. So it should be here? I'm afraid that the so-called barbarian lord isn't the Yun country's monarch anymore. Hong Yi smiled unconcernedly. At his level of cultivation, he could remain calm even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him. His eyes would not blink even if a deer appeared on the left. Ha 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 ha. I'm free. The boundless world is mine to roam. The five-colored ball of light that rushed out from the void was naturally the fear-fiend king that had turned into a demon seed and escaped from the underground space. As the five-colored ball of light rushed out, the fear-fiend king instantly noticed the ship below, and also saw Hong Yi standing proudly at the bow of the ship. Ha 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 ha, I've been through a lot, and good fortune has come. I've just been reincarnated from the demon seed, and I've already met such a talented body. The fear-fiend king laughed loudly. The five-colored ball of light broke through the sky and rushed towards Hong Yi. As the ball of light rushed towards him, Hong Yi frowned when he saw the faint evil aura in the five-colored ball of light. He formed a seal with both hands, and a domineering aura erupted. The Tathagata Mudra broke through the sky and blasted towards the five-colored ball of light. Bang! The five-colored ball of light seemed to have no resistance at all. It was hit by Hong Yi's Tathagata Mudra on the spot, and exploded into colorful lights that filled the sky and dissipated. Although I've lost my powers, I'm not someone that anyone can bully. The moment the multicolored light exploded, an invisible stream of light rushed to Hong Yi and pierced into the space between his eyebrows. Boom! There was a sudden explosion in Hong Yi's sea of consciousness, and a 100-jang tall demon god with a human head and a scorpion body appeared in Hong Yi's sea of consciousness. A vast aura suddenly erupted and an endless power of fear surged out. Ha 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 ha! Ant, offer up your body to this king. The fear-fiend king laughed arrogantly. His huge body was majestic as he blasted towards Hong Yi's soul. I'm the king? The king of the primordial demon gods? Hee, so you're the barbarian master. Seeing the fear-fiend king charging towards him, Hong Yi's expression didn't change at all. He was still smiling calmly. Since the demon king has arrived, as the master, I naturally have to give you a warm welcome. With a wave of his hand, his entire heart lake and sea of consciousness shook violently. Heaven, earth, wind, thunder, water, fire, mountain, lake. 8 trigrams rose up in his sea of consciousness. The 8 trigrams intersected and transformed into 64 trigrams. Heaven sword, earth sword, wind sword, thunder sword, water sword, fire sword, mountain sword, and lake sword. From each of the trigrams, earth-shattering sword lights shot out. Demon King, take this. Sword formation of the way of changes. The 8 trigrams intersected, and 64 sword lights soared into the sky. In the entire mind lake, there was only an endless amount of sword lights that roared. Ah! What the hell is this? Before the fear-fiend king's soul could make a move, it was drowned by the endless sword lights. This is the Book of Changes, a classic that I wrote. You're an immemorial demon god. You haven't read much, so you definitely haven't seen it before. Hong Yi smiled as he looked at the fear-fiend king, who was struggling in the sword formation. He clasped his hands, and another 8 trigrams appeared. Another sword formation of the Way of Changes came crashing down on the Demon King. The Way of Changes is endless, so the sword formation of the Way of Changes is endless as well. Demon King, enjoy this. As the sword formations of the Way of Changes stacked on top of one another, the Demon God King who had dominated the immemorial era could only be cut into pieces by the endless sword lights. A demon god who has lost his powers and still cultivates the martial way. Even if you can shatter the vacuum and have a strong will, you don't have the power to end the battle in one blow. Therefore, you can only die in my sword formation of the Way of Changes. After the demon god was destroyed, Hong Yi's soul rolled and instantly absorbed the demon god's shattered will into his soul. 129,600 acupoints. Fist intent materialization, rebirth from a drop of blood, shape-shifting, shattering the vacuum? Terrifying fist, terrifying tide, demon god blood sacrifice. Seeing the information left behind in the demon god's shattered will, even with Hong Yi's temperament, he laughed in delight. It is indeed the Feng hexagram. It is indeed, seeing a barbarian in a battle in the day is auspicious. This is really auspicious. Chapter 275. Meeting the barbarian lord in the middle of the day is auspicious. Liu counted with his fingers, and when he saw the result, he laughed out loud. Seeing the battle in the middle of the day, those two in the void of sun and moon can't sit still anymore? Sitting in the sun palace and watching the world fight, do they want to be the Oriole? Meeting the barbarian lord, is the champion marquis already planning to eliminate the barbarian lord and get rid of the Qian emperor? Liu chuckled. This world is getting more and more interesting. The same hexagram could be used to calculate different things. Naturally, there would be different interpretations. Hong Yi calculated the rewards of this trip. Naturally, the five-colored ball of light rushed out of the sun and the primordial fiend celestial gave a generous gift. Liu calculated the general trend of the future and obtained a different answer. I can't be bothered with these things. Let's take a look at the immortal steel first. Liu waved his hand and took out the immortal steel that the monkey had put away. With a wave of his hand, the immortal steel instantly collapsed and turned into 480 million talismans. The Longevity Emperor is indeed Pan Huang's master. A magic treasure can refine the martial Dao's ever-changing ability and condense 480 million talismans. It's really extraordinary. Although Liu had obtained the method to refine the immortal steel from the sun god's consciousness, he wasn't in the mood to refine the immortal steel because it would take too much time. In this world, refining divine weapons and supreme treasures would easily take hundreds or even thousands of years. How could Liu have the time to waste on this? With a ready-made reference, as long as the system scans and analyzes the structure of the immortal steel, it can be used on other supreme treasures and divine weapons. With a wave of his hand, Liu put away the immortal steel and gave the system an order. System, analyze the structure of the immortal steel. Establish a mission to analyze the feasibility of applying the structure of the immortal steel to other equipment. Analysis complete. Feasibility analysis requires the activation of the virtual illusion realm and multiple simulation experiment. Do you want to activate it? Activate. Liu nodded without hesitation. This kind of magic treasure's ability to gather and disperse formless energy was simply too powerful. If he could refine this kind of magic treasure and fuse the 480 million talismans of the magic treasure with the 480 million talismans of the body, how powerful would he be? His every movement had the power of a divine artifact. More importantly, his body of flesh and blood already possessed the indestructible quality of a divine artifact. No matter how strong a vacuum-shattering expert's body was, it was still made of flesh and blood. How could it compare to a divine weapon? Of course, divine artifacts were not indestructible. However, once the divine artifact and the body fused, the divine artifact would also have the ability to regenerate the body. This was extremely terrifying. Liu was naturally very interested in this characteristic of the immortal monument. If he followed this method to refine the Green Lotus Imperial armament and let the Green Lotus Avatar refine it, then fuse the Green Lotus Avatar with the main body. How terrifying was Liu's strength! If I can do that, I don't believe that I can't transcend the Nirvana realm with this power. Liu's lips curled into a smile as he instructed the system. System, let's start with the simplest experiment. Let's start with the monkey, Qilin, and Ao Luan's equipment as the foundation. In the virtual illusion, the system immediately started the experiment. The first to appear was the monkey's purple gold coiled dragon cudgel. A 5-colored light flashed, and the cudgel instantly turned into 480 million light spot. In the next instant, it reassembled into the cudgel. It can be done, but, seeing the system's results, Liu shook his head. Although the modification is complete, it has lost the power of a divine artifact. It's meaningless. After throwing away the purple gold coiled dragon cudgel, Liu turned his attention to the other pieces of equipment. The Monkey King's 3-piece set, the Qilin seal, Ao Luan's primordial ice sword and primordial ice armor. A 5-colored light flashed, and the modification of these pieces of equipment was completed. The Monkey King's 3-piece set, the Qilin seal, Ao Luan's primordial ice sword and primordial ice armor, were all completed. They had the ability to turn into talismans and fuse with the body. The equipment in this world can use this method, but the equipment in other worlds can't? What's the reason for this? Is it because of the material? Or is it because of the difference in refining methods and concept? Liu frowned and pondered for a while. His divine sense was constantly calculating. The purple gold coiled dragon cudgel can turn into a talisman, but it has lost the power of a divine artifact. So there's no problem with the material. Then the problem lies with the power of a divine artifact. The power of a divine artifact originates from the Tao of divine inscriptions refined within the weapon. In other words, the modification of the talisman destroys the Tao of divine inscriptions? After the results of his divine sense calculation, Liu instructed the system, analyze the reason why the modification of the purple gold coiled dragon cudgel failed. Analysis complete. The power of a divine artifact originates from the Tao of divine inscriptions. The modification of the talisman destroys the Tao of divine inscriptions, so the modification failed. As expected, Liu clapped and nodded with a smile. This time, he didn't rely on the system at all. He solved the problem with his own analysis and deduction ability. This made Liu very happy. Great power originated from oneself. No matter how powerful the system was, it was only an external object. The power that belonged to oneself was the true foundation. However, Liu couldn't solve the problem of whether the Tao of divine inscriptions could be fused with the talisman. He could only rely on the system. Analyze the feasibility of fusing the Tao of divine inscriptions with the talisman. Virtual experiments are allowed. After passing this problem to the system, Liu didn't bother about it anymore. He just needed to wait for the system to complete the deduction and see the result. How should I deal with this immortal monument? Looking at the immortal monument in the resource warehouse, Liu frowned slightly. The immortal monument was the divine artifact that the longevity Dharch used to seal the 5 demon gods. Each immortal monument also contained great power. Having an immortal monument was equivalent to having the cultivation of the martial Tao that could transform into anything. This power was very strong. One had to know that the Pan Huang sacred sword could only injure the creator, but it couldn't kill him. However, a human immortal martial Tao that could transform into anything could destroy the creator's divine soul with a punch. A human immortal martial Tao that could transform into anything was equivalent to a ghost immortal that had gone through 9 lightning tribulations. However, Liu's important subordinates were already human immortals of the martial Tao that could transform into anything. In addition, Liu was going to modify their equipment soon, so they didn't need this thing at all. Looking up at the West Mountain Valley and the group of foxes that were cultivating diligently, Liu sighed. Forget it, you guys are lucky. After being together for so long, he couldn't treat them too badly. It could be predicted that before Liu left, it would be impossible for the foxes in the West Mountain to have someone who could take charge of them alone in this short period of time. After Li Yu left, these foxes would be in a more difficult situation. Since we're acquaintances, I'll give you guys something to protect yourself. He took out the immortal monument and wiped it with his hand. Vast and boundless dermic powers instantly swept through the entire immortal monument and erased all the imprints that the longevity Dharch had left behind. He imprinted the true celestial fox technique on the immortal monument, then waved his hand and sent the immortal monument into the nine-tailed celestial fox statue that stood tall in the West Mountain Valley. 480 million talismans instantly merged into the celestial fox statue. A fox's roar resounded through the clouds, and an extremely powerful celestial fox aura enveloped the entire West Mountain Valley. This is, when the old fox Tu Yuan saw this, he immediately understood that this was the grace of His Majesty Emperor Yu. He quickly led the group of foxes to kneel on the ground. Emperor Yu is virtuous, Emperor Yu is merciful. Chapter 276. Time passed day by day. In the blink of an eye, it had been 4 years since he came to this world. After advancing to the Yang spirit stage, Li Yu had recultivated the endless scripture, and his strength had been recultivated with the endless scripture. I'm already a quasi-emperor? During this period of time, Li Yu had been converting his strength. Now, he had finally perfected his cultivation and merged his strength with the endless scripture. He stepped into the 8th level of immortal foundation and became a quasi-emperor. So, my previous thoughts were completely wrong. At this level, Li Yu already had a clear understanding of the great emperor level. He realized that his previous thoughts were not feasible. Great Emperor, this is the highest level of another world and is related to the laws of heaven and earth. It's impossible to advance in this world. If he could not advance to Great Emperor, it was naturally impossible to prove his Tao through strength. Transcendence, what exactly is transcendence? How on earth do cultivators transcend beyond the other shore? Li Yu furrowed his brows tightly. The Tathagata Kasaya in Hong Yi's hands has the Tao of Vajra Prajna Paramitha recorded on it. Looks like I need to meet Hong Yi. Li Yu naturally knew the origin of the Tathagata Kasaya. It was just that Li Yu did not want to walk the path of great ambition, so he did not care about the Vajra Prajna Paramitha in the Tathagata Kasaya. Until now, Li Yu realized that the path of proving his Tao through strength was not feasible. He could only go and see how the Vajra Prajna Paramitha transcended. Then let's go. Li Yu smiled and took a step forward, instantly arriving in Jade Capital. Library of Zhou. It's really extraordinary. Li Yu looked up at the library in front of him and nodded with a smile. This library was newly built, and was not like those 1,000-year-old libraries that had a rich history. However, the Library of Zhou was shrouded in brilliant literature and gave off a beautiful atmosphere. It was already very extraordinary. Reading is also cultivation. Cultivating one's mind and character is the Tao of soul cultivation. This magnificent atmosphere is rather similar to the cultivation path of Kangwu Mountain. Li Yu smiled and nodded approvingly. Standing at the entrance of the academy, Li Yu did not directly walk in. Instead, he released a trace of his aura. Great Emperor Yu Huang, Reverend Sun God. With such a status, even if he wanted to enter the academy, he would have to be personally welcomed by the master. Otherwise, it would be too degrading. Hong Yi, who was lecturing in the academy, suddenly felt his entire body tremble. He felt a strand of yang energy blow over like a gust of spring wind. Spring returned to the world, causing all things to grow, and it caused a layer of warmth to arise in his heart. This is, with Hong Yi's current cultivation, it was naturally impossible for him to not be able to discern the transcendent phenomenon contained within this aura that seemed to be above all things in the world and all living beings in the world. There's only one person in the world with such an aura. Hong Yi already had an answer in his heart, and a wisp of joy appeared on his face. He hurriedly dismissed the students in front of him, straightened his clothes, and hurried to the entrance of the academy. When he walked out of the academy, he saw a young man wearing a golden crown and an ancient white robe. He had a smile on his face and his hands were behind his back. Courage, wisdom, benevolence, uprightness, 4 types of majestic auras flowed out from the young man's body, causing one to involuntarily revere him. Although he was only standing with his hands behind his back, his every movement contained endless majesty. His stature was imposing, and his aura was dignified. He had the aura of a holy emperor. Is this the true aura of His Majesty Emperor Yu? Hong Yi's heart trembled, and he hurriedly bowed. Hong Yi pays his respects to His Majesty Emperor Yu. Your Majesty's presence brings light to my humble dwelling. This student is deeply honored. You and I are old acquaintances. There's no need to be so courteous. Liu smiled and nodded. He reached out to help Hong Yi up. I haven't seen you in just 2 to 3 years, and you've already achieved so much. You're indeed extraordinary. Your Majesty is too kind. Hong Yi stood up and welcomed Liu into the academy. They came to a large hall and sat down. Thanks to Your Majesty's generous gift, Hong Yi was able to make some progress. Hong Yi dares not forget Your Majesty's benevolence. Hong Yi served tea and snacks, and then sincerely thanked Liu. They're all scriptures from the great Zen temple. I'm just being generous. There's no need for that. Liu smiled and waved his hand. He glanced at Hong Yi's simple robe and chuckled. This is the Tathagata Kasaya, right? Haha, you're indeed fated with the great Zen temple. Liu gave the system a command in his mind. System, scan the Tathagata Kasaya and record the Vajra Prajna Paramitha into the resource library. An invisible wave instantly swept across the Tathagata Kasaya, and the Vajra Prajna Paramitha was completely recorded. Your Majesty's discerning eyes are right. Hong Yi looked at the simple robe on his body and smiled. Everything Hong Yi has learned is the foundation of the great Zen temple. It can be said that I'm fated with the great Zen temple. A few days ago, when I was traveling, I saw a book called the Book of Changes. This book is all-encompassing and describes the principles of all things in the world. After reading it, I gained many insight. After knowing that the Book of Changes was written by you, I decided to come and see you. Liu looked at Hong Yi and nodded with a smile. His eyes were full of praise. Hong Yi is overjoyed that the Book of Changes caught Your Majesty's eye. Even with Hong Yi's temperament, he was overjoyed at Liu's praise of the Book of Changes. The Book of Changes is naturally extraordinary. Liu nodded and stood up. I'm only here on a whim today, so I won't disturb you any further. The old era is about to end and the new era is about to begin. Your path has only just begun. With a wave of his hand, Liu's figure flickered and disappeared without a trace. What kind of virtue and ability did Hong Yi have? How could he be called a child? His Majesty Emperor Yu praises me too much. Hong Yi smiled and shook his head, but a sense of pride surged in his heart. Even His Majesty Emperor Yu calls me easy. How can I disappoint him? West Mountain Valley. Liu's figure appeared in the small attic. Sitting down in the hall, Liu began to flip through the Vajra Prajna Paramitha Tao. Deliver all living beings? What the hell, isn't this great ambition too great? Reading the Vajra Prajna Paramitha Tao and the great ambition of Yuan becoming a Buddha and transcending the Nirvana realm, Liu's mouth twitched a few times. With this great ambition, how long will I have to be busy for? For the endless years to come, I'll have to be busy delivering all living beings. I'm here to seek immortality, not to be a slave. Skipping the content of the great ambition, Liu looked directly at the description of transcending the Nirvana realm. So that's how it is? The so-called transcending the Nirvana realm is to break free from the shackles of heaven and earth, break free from the shackles of heaven and earth, and become one of its own. This is the Nirvana realm? Is this what it means to jump out of the three realms and not be bound by the five elements? Is that all? Reading up to this point, Liu was dumbfounded. I can leave this world at any time. This world can't restrain me. Could it be that I've already transcended the Nirvana realm? Chapter 277. I'm sure I haven't transcended the Nirvana realm. When one's cultivation reached Liu's level, one would have a clear grasp of one's own body. He knew very well that his lifespan was still only 129,600 years. Therefore, he couldn't be in the Nirvana realm. Break free from the shackles of heaven and earth? But which shackles of heaven and earth should I break free from? Liu smiled bitterly and shook his head. Yes, Liu didn't even know which world he belonged to. Even if he wanted to transcend and reach the Nirvana realm, he didn't know which world he should start from. He originally lived on Earth and later transmigrated to the main world. Then, the connate divine body Tao fetus came from the world of Zhou-Yi. Even if he wanted to transcend, he didn't know where he should start. So, I can't find the path to immortality in this world. Liu waved his hand and flipped the chessboard on the table in front of him. In that case, I'm not in the mood to play chess with you guys. At this level of cultivation, he couldn't break through in this world. The only thing Liu needed to pay attention to was the safety of the merchant city stronghold. Monkey and the other two aren't strong enough. They need to at least have the power to shatter the vacuum to ensure the safety of the merchant city stronghold. Liu frowned and began to think of a shortcut to help the three of them break through the vacuum as soon as possible. Forget about the place of origin if I don't do it myself. If Monkey and the others dare to take advantage of the situation there, they'll be killed by Emperor Chang Xing and Taoist creation. Liu looked up at the nine-tailed fox statue in the West Mountain Valley and smiled. Then we can only continue to target the Immortal Monument. The Dread Demon King was finished and the Immortal King had broken free. There were still the King of Destruction, Demon King of Despair, and Goli Divine King. These three demon gods were still sealed in the Immortal Monument. These three demon gods would be the cultivation resources for Monkey, Aoluan, and Qilin. He took out a jade stone and wiped it with his hand, turning it into 3 jade talismans. Wu, bring Qilin and Aoluan to see me quickly. At his command, the somersault cloud flew over. Greetings, Lord. The monkey, Aoluan, and the Qilin pressed down their clouds and knelt before Liu. Get up. Liu waved his hand and helped the three of them up. Glancing at the three of them, Liu nodded. Not bad. You've already consolidated your shape-shifting realm. Now your opportunity to shatter the vacuum has arrived. Crushing vacuum? Great! Breaking through the void with martial arts, turning the body into a saint. That's great. The three of them were all smiles, unable to contain their joy. Take this talisman and make a trip to the outer space. After finding the immortal steel, he could use the talisman puppet to suppress the primordial demon god and refine his cultivation. This is your opportunity to shatter the vacuum. With a wave of his hand, 3 jade talismans fell into the hands of the 3 men. At the same time, the location of the immortal monument was also imprinted into their minds. Thank you, Honorable Lord, for your generous gift. After shattering the vacuum, one would have 129,600 years of lifespan. After shattering the vacuum, one would have the power of the Holy Emperor. With the opportunity to break through in cultivation in their hands, the three of them knelt before Liu gratefully. Go. Liu waved his hand. Yes. The monkey rode the somersault cloud, and the three of them soared into the sky. With my talisman, the three of you will definitely have a smooth journey. With the three of you shattering the vacuum, the merchant city will be safe. Liu nodded and turned to look in the direction of Qingzhou. It's time for the Immortal King to make his move on the champion marquee. I'll get Tao Tai to hide the information and trick the immortal king. Let the champion marquis turn this world upside down. Qingzhou. In the secret chamber, the champion marquis body exploded and his 129,600 acupuncture points burst out with brilliant light. Radiance flowed all over his body. Ha 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 ha. I have fully opened my acupuncture points and ascended to an advanced human immortal. I will be invincible in this world. The champion marquis stood up and laughed loudly. This day has finally come. There was a violent tremor in the void. An extremely powerful force swept over and instantly swept up the champion marquis and pulled him into the void beyond the heavens. The starry sky was like the sea and the void was boundless. A fiend celestial with a human head and a snake body coiled up and stood in the void. The huge fiend celestial laughed loudly and pulled his arm out of the void. He grabbed a figure tightly in his huge palm. That figure was naturally the champion marquis. Ha 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 ha. This king has finally waited for this day. The immortal king grabbed the champion marquis in front of him and laughed loudly. The huge figure trembled in the laughter, causing the surrounding void to crack. Among my pawns, you are not the most outstanding one. Su Wui of the heavens beyond Pan Star is more than 10 times stronger than you. The immortal king glanced at the champion marquis and shook his head. It's a pity that Su Wui is only focused on the path of martial arts. Even when Pan Xing obtained Pan Huang's inheritance a few years ago, he only cultivated martial arts. That doesn't meet this king's requirements. The old era is about to end and the new era is about to begin. The torrent of human Tao is unstoppable. Although I am a vacuum-shattering being, I am unable to transcend because of my unusual body. Therefore, I can only think of another way. The immortal king grinned and was overjoyed. After nurturing you for so long, it's time to harvest you. As long as I take over your body, I will be able to reincarnate as a human. Relying on the general trend of human Tao, I will become a sun spirit and transcend. Ant, offer up your body. The immortal king roared and his body exploded into 480 million light spots that instantly rushed into the champion marquis body. 480 million talismans gathered the vast power of the immortal king's vacuum-shattering realm. After rushing into the champion marquis body, it immediately merged with the champion marquis body. The incomparably huge power merged and in an instant, the champion marquis cultivation broke through the blood rebirth and infinite transformation to the vacuum-shattering realm. The changes in the body were only part of it. In the heart lake and sea of consciousness, the immortal king's vacuum-shattering realm martial will instantly rushed into the sea of consciousness, and the incomparably huge power suppressed the champion marquis' soul to the point that it could not move. However, even so, the champion marquis' face was full of mockery, and there was no trace of panic. Ant, you're not panicking at all? Have you already accepted your fate? Are you planning to offer up your body to me? Very good awareness. Worthy of praise. But it's meaningless. The immortal king's smug voice echoed in the heart lake and sea of consciousness. Ha ha. The champion marquis smiled. I was quite panicked at first. After knowing that you were planning to take over my body, I didn't panic at all. The corners of the champion marquis' mouth curled into a mocking sneer. There was once someone like you who wanted to take over my body. Since then, I am not worried about things like taking over someone's body. You really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. My martial will is not inferior to the Sun Spirit Master's soul at all. I have checked your soul memories and there is nothing you can do to hurt me. The immortal king curled his lips in disdain and waved his hand, intending to annihilate the champion marquis' soul in one fell swoop. No, it's very simple. It's just a matter of shutting your mouth. After all, you have always been in Tao Tai's mouth. The champion marquis chuckled, his face full of mockery. Tao Tai. The immortal king was stunned for a moment, then, roar. Tao Tai's loud roar sounded, and the immortal king's vision turned black. A peerless existence who had dominated the ancient times for countless years died so sullenly. All his cultivation was given to the champion Marquis. Ha 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 ha! I am already invincible in the world. The champion Marquis laughed wildly. Chapter 278. Very good, the Marquis champion's strength is enough to flip the table. Liu glanced at the immortal king's martial will in the resource vault and waved his hand to let the system break it down. By now, these things were no longer valuable to Liu. However, the immortal monument is still useful. After being swallowed by the Tao Tai, the immortal king's immortal monument naturally fell into Liu's hands. The immortal king was the supreme of the primordial demon gods and was the strongest. The immortal monument that sealed him was also the largest, almost double the size of the other immortal monuments. System: erase the aura imprint on the immortal monument. Liu couldn't be bothered to do it himself. He let the system erase the imprint left behind by the Longevity Emperor and temporarily stored it in the resource vault. In the future, I'll leave it to modify the heavenly tomb space and refine it into a portable cave abode with the ability to transform. It'll be very convenient for me to travel in the future. Liu smiled and knocked on the table with a strange expression. The Marquis champion's strength has increased tremendously. He's already invincible. There's a good show coming up. There was a loud explosion in the void. There was a flash of clear light and the Marquis champion returned to the greater world. Ha 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 ha! I'm already invincible! The aura around him was vast and boundless. He could move mountains, fill seas, and destroy the world with a single move. Feeling this immense power, the Marquis champion laughed out loud. Me? No. Given my current realm, how can I be inferior to others? Why call myself a Marquis? I want to be the Emperor. The Marquis champion looked in the direction of Yujing City. His eyes were cold. Old man, your position is already mine. There was a flash of clear light. The Marquis champion took a step forward, broke through the void, and arrived at Yujing City. Boom! There was a loud explosion in the sky. Heaven and earth shook and the void shattered. Old thief Yang Pan, come out and accept your death. The Marquis champion roared. His vast and boundless aura covered the sky. His overwhelming power shook the heavens and dominated the world. How dare you! An angry roar soared into the sky, followed by a loud bang in the void. An incomparably huge ship broke through the sky. In the brilliance that filled the sky, endless scenes of creation appeared on the huge ship. The majestic aura was earth-shattering. Boat of creation? The Marquis champion curled his lips in disdain. If it was in the hands of Taoist fortune, then this Marquis would have some misgivings. In your hands, this Marquis wouldn't even spare you a glance. Unfilial son. Above the boat of creation, the Qian Emperor, Yang Pan, stood at the bow of the boat of creation with his head held high. Beside him stood Hong Xuanji, who was dressed in a dark golden robe. Unfilial son, you dare to rebel against your superiors. How can you continue to live in this world if you are so disloyal, unfilial, and rebellious? Autarch Qian pointed at the champion Marquis and loudly rebuked. What a joke! Old bastard Yang Pan, when you tried to take over my body, did you ever think about the relationship between father and son? If you want to kill me, I'll kill you. That's only right. The Marquis champion laughed loudly. He took a step forward and there was a loud crack in the void. He clenched his fist and punched out. Immortal King's fist. With a punch, a vast and majestic power shattered the void. It shattered the heaven and earth Yuan Qi and everything in front of it. Connate creation, Wuji true source. Autarch Qian pressed his hands together and the huge boat of creation shook violently. Rays of light of creation circulated rapidly and endless scenes of creation appeared in the void. A huge current that contained the creation of heaven and earth rushed up with a loud bang. The air current of creation collided with the Marquis Champion's fist. Boom! The void shattered and heaven and earth shook. The enormous wind swept up an endless void storm, stirring up the entire sky into an endless void turbulence. Ka. There was a series of explosions on the boat of creation. Countless streams of light collapsed. More than half of the flowing scenes of creation were destroyed. The impact of the huge wind sent the boat of creation flying a few hundred miles. It crushed the void along the way and swept up a huge turbulent storm. After all, the boat of creation was one of the strongest divine weapons in the world. The Marquis Champion's immortal king fist had shattered the void. Even though the boat of creation was sent flying a few hundred miles, it did not cause any damage to the boat of creation. Humph! The Marquis Champion snorted coldly. He took a step forward and with a flash of crystal light, he appeared above the boat of creation. I know the creation path cultivation technique too. The corners of the Marquis Champion's mouth curled into a sneer. He reached out and grabbed. Endless streams of creation light whizzed out and transformed into a huge palm out of thin air. Creation Universe. The palm reached towards the image of creation floating above the boat. With a tearing sound, the image of creation above the boat was torn apart like a piece of cloth by the champion Marquis. The Marquis Champion rushed into the boat of creation in a flash. Be careful, Your Majesty! The moment the Marquis Champion rushed into the boat of creation, Hong Xuanji shouted. He leaped up and formed a seal with his hands. He used the heavenly death wheel and blasted it at the Marquis Champion. If it was in the past, this move would have worked. But now? Your strength is too weak. The Marquis of Champions sneered disdainfully and slapped out with a backhand. The tremendous power shattered the wheel of death, causing Hong Xuanji to spurt out blood all over his body. He crashed heavily onto the deck of the boat of destiny. Old fart, did you think this day would come? The Marquis Champion landed on the deck of the boat of creation and stared arrogantly at the autarch with a sinister smile. Unfilial son, when you were just born, I should have thrown you into the toilet and drowned you. The autarch glared at the Marquis Champion and gnashed his teeth. Tsk tisk. The Marquis Champion looked disdainful. Old fart, what's the point of saying such things now? Die. The Marquis Champion sneered and reached out. A huge palm appeared and grabbed at the autarch. Boom! The void exploded and the Yuan Qi shook. The power to shatter the void was unstoppable. After the Marquis Champion killed the future master's clone, the autarch's strength was not as good as before. Now that he had not even recovered the strength of the sixth lightning tribulation, how could he block the Marquis Champion? The huge palm grabbed the autarch and the Marquis Champion sneered. Old fart, I will let you die without leaving any ashes. Roar! The black Tautai rushed out and swallowed the autarch. Indeed, there was not even a trace of him left. Emperor! Seeing this, Hong Xuanji's eyes widened. Traitor, you dare to kill your father? He wanted to kill me, so I killed him. What's so strange about that? The Marquis Champion sneered disdainfully. Hong Xuanji, it's your turn now. Great capture of creation. The Marquis Champion grabbed out with his hand. Endless streams of light transformed into a huge palm that grabbed at Hong Xuanji. Hong Xuanji's strength was only at the intermediate stage of the human immortal stage. How could he be compared to the Marquis Champion who could shatter the void? After being slapped by the Marquis Champion, Hong Xuanji had no strength to resist. Hong Xuanji, I will send you to reunite with that old thief Yang Pan. The Marquis Champion sneered and the black Tautai soared into the sky. Stop! Marquis Champion, stop! At this moment, the 8 trigrams image changed. Hong Yi shouted and rushed over. Hong Yi? The Marquis Champion frowned and turned his head to see that Hong Xuanji had already been swallowed by the Tautai. The Marquis Champion curled his lips and spread out his hand. Hong Yi, I have already avenged you. No need to thank me. Chapter 279. Huh! Seeing the Marquis Champion command the Taotai to swallow Hong Xuanji, Hong Yi paused. Hong Xuanji is dead? Expressionless, Hong Yi looked deeply at the Marquis Champion, flicked his sleeves, and left. Humph! At least you know what's good for you. The Marquis Champion couldn't be bothered with Hong Yi. With a wave of his hand, the boat of destiny shot out and transformed into a foot-long boat model that landed in his hand. The boat of destiny is a good thing. The Marquis Champion stared at the boat of destiny in his hand, and a few thoughts flashed through his mind. My martial path is at the pinnacle of shattering the void. But my spirit has only undergone 7 lightning tribulations. That's still not enough. Only by becoming a yang spirit can I transcend. So, Taotai, swallow it. The Marquis Champion was very decisive. Without hesitation, he commanded the Taotai to swallow the boat of destiny. He's so decisive? When Li Yu saw the Marquis Champion directly let the Taotai swallow the boat of good fortune, he was somewhat surprised by the Marquis Champion's decisiveness. You want to transcend too? Ha! Li Yu shook his head with a smile. System, convert the immortal king's willpower into spirit power and send it to the Marquis Champion. Above the Jade Capital, the Marquis of Champion only felt his spiritual energy skyrocketing as a huge amount of spiritual energy fused into his knowledge sea. He hurriedly sent his spiritual energy out of his knowledge sea and into the thundercloud. Rumble! With a series of explosions, the Marquis Champion underwent 2 lightning tribulations and became a 9th tribulation ghost immortal. Still not enough. The Marquis of Champion turned to look in the direction of the most high paths Taishan Mountain. The Dream God Base still has a peak divine weapon, the Kingdom of Eternity. I'll devour it as well and become a sun spirit in one fell swoop. With a flash, the Marquis Champion tore through the air and flew in the direction of the most high path, the peak of Grand Mountain. In a simple and unadorned palace, a series of shocking dragon roars resounded. Endless raging flames surged, and 8 fire dragons soared into the sky with a roar. A figure stood proudly in the void, his aura surging like a raging tide. 8 lightning tribulations, even the spirit has become a god. I have already cultivated the supreme primordial spirit. With such invincible power, the rise and fall of dynasties in the world can be decided with a single thought from me. The Dream God Base stood there with his hands behind his back, looking down at the world like a god. However, there was a loud boom in the void as a figure with a towering aura that could suppress the greater world broke through the void. You said you're invincible? The Champion Marquis looked down at the Dream God Base, as if he was looking at an ant. He sneered, If you're invincible, then what am I? Marquis Champion. You. Dream God Base paled at the sight of the Marquis Champion and his immeasurable strength. You actually, surprised? Ha 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 ha. The Marquis Champion laughed wildly. Are you surprised? Was it shocking? Was it fear? I am invincible. I am invincible. It's actually a crushing vacuum? The corner of the Dream God Base's mouth twitched as he looked at the Marquis Champion in disbelief. How much effort had the Dream God Base put into reaching Yang Spirit? How much had it cost? Even today, there was still an immeasurable gap between him and Yang Spirit. And yet, the Marquis Champion had already crushed vacuum. 4 years ago, the Marquis Champion was only a martial sage, an ant-like existence. In 4 years, he had soared to the heavens like a carp leaping over the dragon gate. Crushing vacuum was equivalent to reaching Yang Spirit. Greetings, Marquis Champion. The power to crush vacuum was worthy of respect. The Dream God Base cupped his fists in greeting. What business does the Marquis have with my most high path? What business do I have? Haha, it's nothing important. The Marquis Champion pursed his lips and looked down at the Dream God Base. I heard that the Most High Path has a supreme treasure called the Kingdom of Eternity. This Marquis is rather interested. Dream God Base, hand over the Kingdom of Eternity. What? The Dream God Base's expression changed as 8 fire dragons roared. Marquis Champion, you dare have designs on the Kingdom of Eternity? Don't think you're all that just because you can crush vacuum. I have the Kingdom of Eternity, I'm not afraid of you. Not afraid. The Marquis Champion grinned and nodded. That's good. If you're afraid, then this Marquis won't be able to make a move. The Marquis Champion waved his sleeve and punched at the Dream God Base. Immortal King's Fist. A single punch was enough to shake the heavens. The void shattered, and so did the elemental energy of heaven and earth. Under this punch, everything seemed to have been shattered. Roar! The 8 fire dragons were instantly annihilated and dissipated into nothingness when they were hit by the fist force. Kingdom of Eternity. A dazzling light shot out from the Dream God Base's forehead. Within this light, a majestic palace appeared in the air. Boom! The Marquis Champion's Immortal King's fist smashed into the Kingdom of Eternity, and the majestic heavenly palace rumbled. The light above the heavenly palace was instantly extinguished, and the earth trembled violently. Just like the Ark of Destiny, the Kingdom of Eternity was sent flying by the Marquis of Champion's fist. It tore through the sky and stirred up violent storms. Eternal light. Even after being sent flying several hundred li, the Dream God Base was still trying to think of a counterattack. An incomparably pure, unfathomable, and indescribable light shot out from the heavenly palace. This light seemed to represent the laws of heaven and earth, representing the absolute truth, representing eternity. Eternal light? Even the patriarch of the High Path, Taishur, was unable to achieve eternity. A magic treasure dares to claim eternity? The Marquis Champion coldly snorted as he clenched his fist and took a step forward, punching again. Boom! The 2 peerless energies violently clashed, creating a heaven-shaking explosion. Boundless light exploded, more dazzling than 1,000 suns. The massive explosion of energy shattered the void and scattered the elemental energy of heaven and earth. Even the aftermath of the explosion caused the mountains within 100 miles of Mount Tai to explode with a loud bang. Pfft! The Dream God Base spat out a mouthful of blood. Even with the protection of the Kingdom of Eternity, the Dream God Base was not directly struck by the Marquis Champion's attack. Clap! Like the final explosion of a candle flame, the dazzling light above the Kingdom of Eternity was completely extinguished. After taking 2 blows from the Marquis Champion, the Dream God Base's energy had been completely depleted, and it could no longer activate the Kingdom of Eternity. You can't hold on anymore? The Marquis of Champion twitched his mouth and stretched out his hand. A huge hand with flowing brilliance appeared out of thin air and grabbed the Kingdom of Eternity. Roar! The pitch-black Tautai appeared and swallowed the Kingdom of Eternity along with the Dream God Base. Heaven-devouring Great Tao, assist me in becoming a young god. The Marquis Champion clenched his fists and roared at the sky. Chapter 280. The Marquis of Champion is too savage. Liu nodded in admiration when he saw the Kingdom of Eternity and the Dream God Base appear in the storehouse. This savage guy is really suitable for plundering. Unfortunately, if he was only going to plunder everything in one go, this guy would naturally be the most suitable. If that world had great potential for development, this kind of person wouldn't be suitable. The Marquis of Champion wants to ascend to the Sun Spirit level? How interesting! Liu chuckled. System, decompose the Dream God Base, Autark Qian and Hong Xuanji. Extract their energy as the Marquis of Champion's reward. At this point, Liu really didn't have much spiritual power left. When he'd ascended to the Sun Spirit level, he'd used up all his previous reserve. He couldn't bear to decompose the Boat of Fortune and the Kingdom of Eternity into energy, so he could only use the dream god base and the others to make up the numbers. I'm afraid this won't be enough. Let's split a strand of sun spirit aura and tease him. Liu split a strand of sun spirit aura from his body and fused it with this energy, sending it to the Marquis of Champion. In the air above the most supreme path mountain, the Marquis of Champion stood in the air, receiving the energy from the Taotai. Sensing the powerful energy pouring into his mind, the Marquis of Champion was slightly surprised. The Kingdom of Eternity and the Boat of Fortune are both peak divine weapons. Why is this energy less than the Boat of Fortune? This aura. The energy that was rapidly fusing into his soul carried with it a pure and vast aura. It was as glorious as the sun, causing the Marquis of Champion to tremble. That's right. This energy already has the essence of the sun spirit, so it's naturally much less in quantity. The Marquis of Champion was relieved and hurriedly calmed his heart, continuously absorbing this energy and experiencing this pure yang qi. Boom! The pure yang qi that had fused into his soul suddenly exploded. In an instant, the Marquis of Champion felt his soul become boundless, encompassing the entire world. Time passed, and the world changed. Everything in the vast 1,000 realms had fused into his mind, allowing the Marquis of Champion to feel the vastness of the world. It was as if he had become one with the world. Every breath he took was like the circulation of the world's yuan qi. Unfortunately, it's still not enough. Moments later, this aura dissipated completely, and the Marquis of Champion could no longer experience the miraculous scene of being one with the heavens. Of course, the sun god is not so easy to achieve. The Marquis of Champion clenched his fists tightly and said, "My vacuum-shattering realm is no weaker than that of the sun spirit. If I can swallow a Yang Spirit Master, I will definitely be promoted to Yang Spirit." Immortal Yang Shen. The Marquis of Champion glanced at the Taotai jade pendant on his waist, and his face turned ferocious. The only Yang Spirit Master left in this world is Emperor Yu. Taotai is Emperor Yu's most precious treasure. I wonder if it can swallow Emperor Yu? Since he didn't even know where Emperor Yu was, the Champion Marquis couldn't find any clues. He could only turn around and return to the Jade Capital, planning to sit on the Dragon Throne and become the Emperor. Holy **T. The Champion Marquis, this ingrate, actually has designs on me? After Li Yu kept Eternal Kingdom, he ignored the Marquis Champion and allowed him to do as he pleased. Li Yu only noticed that the Marquis of Champion was eyeing him when he heard the system alarm. "Young man, you are really courting death." Li Yu smiled and shook his head. The essence of Tao Tai was a system created by Li Yu, and the highest authority belonged to Li Yu. Any thoughts or words of the Marquis of Champion that were unfavorable to Li Yu would trigger the Tao Tai's alarm. "All right, isn't this expected?" Li Yu chuckled. A host like the Marquis of Champion, when he is not successful, he will be grateful, but after he is successful, he will be arrogant and bite back. This is almost inevitable. Of course, Li Yu couldn't be bothered with how the Marquis of Champion was courting death. He had more important things to deal with, because at this time, Monkey and the rest had already returned. A clear light burst out from the void, and the somersault cloud instantly rushed out. 3 figures with boundless auras and might that could shake heaven and earth jumped down and landed in front of Li Yu. "Greetings, Lord." Monkey and the rest bowed deeply in front of Li Yu. "Get up." Li Yu waved his hand, indicating for the 3 to get up. Looking up and sweeping a glance at the 3, Li Yu was very satisfied to see that the 3 of them had already broken the boundary between reality and illusion and advanced to the vanquishing vacuum realm. "Not bad." Li Yu nodded approvingly. "Lord is very kind." Monkey and the rest were filled with emotions in their hearts. Although Monkey had long had a deep understanding of Li Yu's mystiques, after advancing to the vanquishing vacuum realm this time and obtaining 129,600 years of lifespan, Monkey was still full of admiration for Li Yu's method. Aolwan and Qilin were even more so. Aolwan used to be the Sky Dragon Tao Master, so how could he not know the difficulty of cultivation? How many years had it been since he entered Li Yu's tutelage? In such a short time, he had soared to the sky. Qilin had followed the Holy Emperor Extremity, and had a deeper understanding of this. Even the Holy Emperor Extremity could only seal him in a minor chiliocosm, which allowed him to live until now. But in Li Yu's hands, Qilin could summon clouds and rain with a flip of his hand. Cultivation was as simple as drinking water. In just a few years, Qilin's strength was actually not inferior to the Holy Emperor Extremity. Although your current strength isn't bad, you still can't slack off. Li Yu reminded them, then smiled at the three of them and said, "Give me your equipment, I'll refine it for you. It will allow your strength to improve by a notch." Yes. Hearing Li Yu's words, the three of them hurriedly presented the equipment that Li Yu had given them. With a wave of his hand, the Monkey King's three-piece set, Aolwan's sword armor, and Qilin's seal floated in the air. With a gentle wave of his sleeve, a 5-colored light swept across, and the equipment of the three instantly turned into a ball of talisman light spots. "Go!" Li Yu waved his hand, and the ball of light rushed into the bodies of the three of them. "Refine it again and fuse it with your body talismans. It will be even more powerful." "Yes," the three of them replied. Their bodies shook, and they also scattered into 480 million talismans and fused with the talismans of their equipment. Boom! After a moment, there was a loud explosion, and three figures with even more boundless auras appeared again. This is the magic treasure fused with the body? It has the power of a magic treasure at any time and place? Magic treasures can change into a myriad of forms. A magic treasure can change into any form at will. Supremacy is indeed very resourceful. Feeling the changes in their bodies, the three of them were shocked and delighted. Especially Aolwan. After fusing with the primordial ice armor, she could change into any form at will. In just a short moment, the style of Aolwan's clothes had changed dozens of times. "You guys have fun." Li Yu waved his hand, turned around, and walked into the hall. Chapter 281. That Yang Spirit Aura is a Bait. Li Yu chuckled. Those two in the void of sun and moon should be unable to sit still. The void of sun and moon had the Sun Palace and the Moon Palace. Emperor Shang of the Sun Palace and Emperor Yin of the Moon Palace were both at the 9th Lightning Tribulation Realm. Both of them wanted to ascend to the Yang Spirit Realm, but couldn't find a way forward. The burst of Yang Spirit Qi from the Marquis of Champion was a guiding light that would definitely arouse the interest of the two. If it was a real Yang Spirit Master, they wouldn't even dare to think about it. But an existence like the Marquis Champion who failed to ascend to the Yang Spirit Realm was the most suitable target. "I'm actually not interested in the two of you." Li Yu stroked his smooth chin and smiled. "But I'm very interested in the divine beasts of the Sun Palace and the Moon Palace. The Sun Palace's Golden Crow and Fire Phoenix, the Moon Palace's Jade Rabbit and Ice Phoenix are all very valuable." The shopping mall was still empty and desolate. With these divine beasts, the mall was full of vitality. Of course, Li Yu didn't need to do this kind of thing. He just needed to wait for the Marquis Champion to deliver the harvest. The monkey's karma also needs to be settled. Since I've already said the name Wukong, Emperor Yu's words are the law of heaven and earth. This is karma. This world had reached the end stage. After these things were settled, Li Yu could return with peace of mind. "Wukong, it's time to take back the other half of your name." Li Yu sent a message to the monkey, and then sent the location of the 9 frozen abyss where the primordial violent ape Kong was in old Demon Ba's memory. "Yes." The monkey bowed and accepted the order. After getting up, the monkey glanced at Aolwan and Qilin and grinned. "I'm going to take back the other half of my name. I'm going to kill a guy called Kong." Are you going to watch the fun? The primordial violent ape Kong? The monkey that led Pan Huang's horse and stole the Jin Dan of Emperor Chongqing? Qilin had naturally heard of the name Kong. Hearing that the monkey was going to fight with Kong, the Kirin shook his head with a smile. Kong is at most in the realm of infinite changes. With your strength, you can still smash him to death with one blow. What's there to see? Brother Monkey, I'll go with you. Aoluan smiled sweetly. I've also heard of the legend of Kong. I'd like to see just how powerful he is. Good. Let's go then. Monkey waved his hand nonchalantly and released the somersault cloud. He pulled Aoluan and charged out. Boom. The somersault cloud broke through the void and appeared out of nowhere. Is this the momentary void? In front of him was a void that was constantly changing. The densely packed cracks in the void were changing every moment, without a fixed shape at all. I've heard the High Lord say that emptiness is comprehending the changes of the void instant and comprehending the eternal instant Tao. Seems like he's quite capable. Monkey reached out and scratched the golden hair on his head. What eternal instant? Deliberately mystifying. What's the use of having so many changes? One blow is enough to beat someone up. Alright. Aoluan shook her head speechlessly. The eternal instant wasn't just for beating people up. Of course, Aoluan didn't argue with Monkey. Given Monkey's personality, wasn't the purpose of cultivation to fight? Let's go. The somersault cloud broke through the void and crashed into the momentary void. Given Monkey's current realm, the infinite changes of the momentary void couldn't stop him at all. The explosive power that could shatter the void directly crushed a path in the momentary void. Boom! Like a barbaric mammoth crushing the forest, the monkey charged straight into the cold abyss of the 9 levels of hell with a loud rumble. Breaking through the void, Monkey and Aoluan arrived in a strange space. There was no heaven or earth in this space. It was all gray and hazy. In the middle of this space, there was a towering tree that pierced through the clouds. There was a strange-shaped fruit on the tree. It shone brightly and had an unfathomable aura. There was a gigantic ape sitting under the tree. That's the primordial violent ape Kong? Monkey and Aoluan looked at the gigantic ape before them and frowned slightly. The gigantic ape sitting under the tree had an extremely vast aura. The gigantic ape crossed its legs and sat with its palms facing the sky. Its eyes were closed as though it was in a deep sleep or meditative state. Its entire body exuded an aura that could shake the universe. That towering tree that reached into the clouds had luxuriant foliage and was as green as jade. The leaves swayed with the wind and let out a heavenly sound. Endless Tao flowed like an immortal realm. Is it dead? Or is it asleep? Monkey was crude and naturally wouldn't care about the Tao of aura. A purple gold coiled dragon cudgel appeared in his hand. Grabbing the club, he slammed it into the ground. With a loud bang, the surrounding void was shaken to the point that it made a rustling sound. Hey, are you awake? Monkey picked up the cudgel and pointed at the gigantic ape under the tree. His powerful aura covered the entire area. Get up. Why are you still sleeping? Get up and fight. Humph. With an angry snort, the gigantic ape under the tree slowly opened its eyes. 3 feet long golden flames shot out from its eyes. Huff, huff, the gigantic ape started to breathe. The wind howled like a raging storm. Junior, are you the one who disturbed my slumber? In an instant, the gigantic ape under the tree had woken up. A pair of golden eyes stared intently at Monkey. A ferocious and domineering aura surged into the sky. Cut the crap. Monkey raised the cudgel in his hands up high. You're Kong, right? The name Kong is mine. I want to take it back. Come on. Let's fight it out. Be *starred. The primordial violent ape, Kong, had a temper that was even more violent than Monkey. How could he listen to such words? Immediately, it leaped up and its huge body rushed up with a loud bang. Eternal bliss, red spider lily bloom. There was a loud explosion in the void as an endless amount of light swirled around and turned into a gorgeous flower. This flower was incomparably mysterious and beautiful. The moment the flower appeared, a vast power surged like a tide. "What tricks are you playing?" Monkey snorted and snorted. He did a somersault and raised the 1,000 cudgel in his hands up high. 9 transformations of the mystic technique, 1 cudgel equals the heavens. A brilliant golden light whizzed up. The 1,000 cudgel in his hands was like a giant pillar. It smashed down on the primordial violent ape Kong's head. With the power of Monkey's vacuum-crushing realm, the power of this cudgel was earth-shattering. In Monkey's heart, Liu was the sky and Liu was the earth. Monkey, who was fighting for Liu, had the martial will of heavenly punishment and earthly extermination. Boom! There was an earth-shattering explosion. The red spider lily exploded and turned into light spots. The 1,000 cudgel, which was like a giant pillar, smashed on Kong's head. Gotcha! The sound of porcelain breaking could be heard. The 480 million talismans on Kong's body were crushed into powder by Monkey's martial will of heavenly punishment and earthly extermination. The primordial violent ape, Kong, was smashed to death by Monkey's cudgel. From today onwards I am Wukong. Monkey raised the 1,000 cudgel and roared. Chapter 282. Monkey is already Wukong. Liu smiled and nodded. Then don't return to Flower Fruit Mountain for the time being. Come to my place first. I will be returning soon, so I have to give some instructions. Turning his head to look at the whirling miraculous tree that Monkey had collected, Liu was very satisfied. Let's plant the whirling miraculous tree in the immortal residence's garden. Waving his hand, Liu no longer cared about Monkey and turned to look in the direction of the Jade Capital. At this time, the two in the Sun-Moon Void should also make their move. The divine beast in the Sun-Moon Void could be considered Liu's final harvest in this world. Of course, Liu had to pay close attention to it. In the Jade Capital, the Marquis Champion sat on the dragon throne and looked around disdainfully. Today, this emperor shall ascend to the throne as the emperor and be titled as Emperor of Peace and Heaven. Do any of you have any objections? Just as the Marquis Champion finished speaking, a court official rushed out with a roar. Traitor, you will die a horrible death for killing the emperor and usurping the throne. Bam! The Marquis Champion slapped down with his palm, directly turning this person into dust. Coldly sweeping a glance at the court officials below, the Marquis Champion continued with a sinister smile. Today, this emperor shall ascend to the throne as the emperor. Do any of you have any objections? Traitor, bam! Another person was slapped to death by a single slap. Do any of you have any objections? The court officials were speechless. Do any of you have any objections? The Marquis Champion roared and a vast aura covered the sky. Long live the Emperor! Long live the Emperor! Long live the Emperor! Under this overwhelming aura, the court officials were powerless to resist and could only submit. Ha 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 ha! The Marquis Champion stood up from the dragon throne and laughed maniacally. Boom! There was a loud explosion in the sky and the violent tremors caused the entire Jade Capital to shake violently. They are already here? Then let the Tautai hide the aura of the Marquis Champion and scam them. Seeing this, Liu chuckled and instructed the system before continuing to watch the show. Who is it? Who dares to offend this emperor? The Marquis Champion snorted and his figure flashed out of the hall, appearing above the Jade Capital. This is, seeing the scene before him, the Marquis of Champion was slightly startled. In the void, 2 extremely luxurious carriages broke through the air. One of the chariots was shining with golden light and burning with raging flames. The other chariot was like a silver moon and emitted an oppressive chill. Around the golden chariot were 1,000 golden crows and 1,000 fire phoenixes. A figure wearing a flat crown and a golden dragon robe was sitting in the golden chariot like a supreme being. On the other side, 1,000 jade rabbits and 1,000 ice phoenixes surrounded Silvermoon's carriage. A woman with a cold expression and dressed in imperial attire was sitting in the carriage. "I am Emperor Shang." The man in the golden chariot glanced at the Marquis Champion and said indifferently, "I am the Een Emperor." The cold voice of the woman in Silvermoon's carriage sounded. "Kowtow, the Emperor of the mortal world. We are the masters of the heavenly palace, and our status is 10,000 times more honorable than yours." "Kowtow?" The corner of the Marquis Champion's mouth twitched a few times as a cold light burst out from his eyes. "Kowtow to your grandmother!" Boom! The Marquis Champion swept his palm over, and a mighty gust of wind swept through the void like a howling gale. "You still dare to attack?" The man in the golden chariot snorted angrily and flicked his sleeve. The golden crows and fire phoenixes around him suddenly let out a long cry, and endless flames erupted, covering the sky and earth. The golden crows and fire phoenixes arranged themselves into a mysterious formation, and the flames in the sky merged into one, forming a blazing sun in the void. Great solar fire formation. Endless raging flames surged as a giant golden crow condensed from flames appeared. It rushed towards the Marquis of Champion's palm with a whistling sound. Boom! A violent shock wave surged, and the golden crow collapsed, and sparks flew everywhere. An incomparably powerful gust of wind whistled, and the irresistible force directly shattered the formation formed by the golden crows and fire phoenixes. Under the impact of the mighty force, the Emperor Shang on the golden chariot spat out a mouthful of blood. "Damn it! How can it be so powerful?" The Emperor Shang's face turned pale. He was scared out of his wits by the Marquis Champion's casual attack. If we want to find the person who failed to break through to the Sun God realm, it would be more convenient to directly find the Emperor of the mortal world and use the power of the imperial court. It's just that, this Emperor of the mortal world is really unexpectedly strong. The Een Emperor's face also showed a hint of panic, and he was extremely depressed. 9th Tribulation Ghost Immortals? Yes, these two chariots are also extraordinary. They are only one level lower than a pinnacle divine artifact. And there are also 4,000 ancient divine beasts that have long been extinct? The Marquis Champion grinned, and a ferocious look appeared on his face. "This kind of fat meat that has come to my door is really a pleasant surprise. I will gladly accept it. Great capture of creation." He stretched out both hands, an endless light of creation intertwined, and a pair of huge palms appeared out of thin air. Like catching a turtle in a jar, the two palms grabbed at the Shang and Een Emperors, one in each hand. "Damn it!" the Shang and Een Emperors exclaimed, and a huge amount of divine soul power erupted. The two chariots exploded with brilliant light, as if a blazing sun and a cold moon had risen in the sky at the same time. Sun and moon shine together, yin and yang alternate. The sun and the moon, the flames and the ice instantly intertwined. Gold and silver light bloomed, and a huge amount of power erupted. However, it was meaningless. Crack! The huge palms grabbed down, and directly crushed the intertwining light of gold and silver. One in each hand, the huge palms grabbed both the people and the chariot. 9th Tribulation Ghost Immortals, two holy emperors' treasures. Is this power enough for me to ascend to the sun spirit level? The Marquis Champion's face was ferocious. He waved his hand, and a huge Tautai soared into the sky. Roar, one bite at a time, the Tautai did not hesitate to swallow the Een Emperor and the Shang Emperor, along with their chariots. I can't let these divine beasts go either. It's safer to swallow them all. The Marquis Champion waved his hand, and endless darkness bloomed at his fingertips. A huge, boundless dark Mandara rushed out, enveloping the 4,000 divine beasts flying in the sky and sealing them into a black crystal. Roar! The Taotai swallowed them again. Well done! Liu smiled and nodded. He had obtained 4,000 divine beasts and 2 additional chariots. He had already exceeded the requirement. With the 4,000 divine beasts, the stronghold in the Mall City was no longer so deserted. Moreover, the 4 divine beasts were all worth cultivating. They could be used as his own team in the future. As for the chariots, they were a pleasant surprise. Liu already had a flying boat, but he did not have a chariot. He could use these 2 chariots after modifying them. The Shang Emperor and the Yin Emperor? Liu shook his head slightly, and waved his hand to let the system break them down. The Marquis Champion still needs to deal with this. Liu looked at the arrogant and domineering figure through the system connection. He smiled and shook his head. Young man, as the system supplier, I will not take the initiative to attack the host, unless you want to die. With a wave of his hand, the energy extracted by the Shang Emperor and the Yin Emperor was given to the Marquis Champion in proportion. A smile appeared on Liu's face. Young man, this energy is not enough for you to ascend to the Sun Spirit level. What will you do? How will you die? I'm looking forward to it. Chapter 283. It's still not enough? After swallowing Emperor Shang and Emperor Yin, the gold and silver chariot, and even the 4,000 divine beasts, the Marquis Champion could feel that he was only a step away from the Sun God level, but he still could not break through. What else is there in this world that I can get my hands on? The Marquis Champion looked around and suddenly realized that he could no longer find a target. Emperor Yu. I can't find him at all. I can't do anything even if I want to. What else is there that's worth getting my hands on? In this world, there was no one who could match him. The Marquis Champion actually felt the loneliness of being invincible. At this moment, the Marquis Champion suddenly recalled the time when he was sent flying by the monkey's stick. At that time, he was not as skilled as the monkey, so he could only swallow his anger. Now, it was time for him to get back at the monkey. The monkey? Since it's the monkey, it must have something to do with old Demon Ba of Mount Yunwu in the East Sea. Humph, the monk can run away, but the temple can't. The Marquis Champion snorted and flew towards the East Sea. He really went to the East Sea? When Liu saw this, he picked up the teacup on the table and took a sip with a satisfied expression. Young man, you were hit by the monkey's stick. With your character, you will definitely seek revenge when you have enough strength. So, you have stepped onto the path of no return. Liu smiled and shook his head. He flicked his finger and closed the aura-concealing array of the stronghold. Young man, this is called fishing. You must have never heard of it. There was a roar in the void. The Marquis Champion broke through the void and arrived at the East Sea in an instant. This is Mount Yunwu? Where's the fog? The Marquis Champion came out of the void and was very surprised to see a huge mountain leaping out of the sea. The Marquis Champion naturally had heard of Mount Yunwu in the East Sea. But when did Mount Yunwu, which was said to be shrouded in clouds all year round and filled with earth evil chi, become such a beautiful place? Of course, this was not important. The Marquis Champion was here for revenge, so he naturally did not care about why there were no clouds in Mount Yunwu. With a step, the Marquis Champion instantly landed at the foot of the mountain. He raised his fist, intending to punch down and destroy the mountain first before thinking about anything else. Just as he raised his fist, the Marquis Champion suddenly felt a powerful aura. This is... With the Marquis Champion's strength, he naturally wouldn't be wrong. He could clearly sense that there was an extremely powerful force hidden within the mountain. It's not chi, blood, or true essence, nor is it the power of the soul. Did that mean there was a pinnacle divine artifact inside? A pinnacle divine artifact equivalent to the boat of destiny? Ha 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 ha! The heavens are really helping me. The Marquis of Champion was overjoyed. He felt that he was the son of destiny. Whatever he wanted, he would get it. He could step on divine artifacts when he walked, and divine artifacts would fall in front of him when he went out. If you don't take what is given to you by the heavens, you will be punished instead. Since this treasure is fated to be with me, I can only accept it. The Marquis of Champion withdrew his fist. His figure flashed as he fled into the mountain. Flower Fruit Mountain? Water Curtain Cave? What was old Demon Ba up to? Even the name of the mountain was changed? Mount Huagua? There were flowers and fruits on the mountain, so it was called Huagua Mountain? A monkey is a monkey. The Marquis of Champion curled his lips. He passed through the water curtain and entered the cave in the belly of the mountain. Another palace? From the looks of it, it was just like a palace. Could it be that old Demon Ba was planning to found a country? Haha, what a joke! A monkey founded a country, and a bunch of monkeys became officials? A monkey crown? The Marquis of Champion sneered, his face full of mockery. This palace, the Marquis of Champion saw the huge copper palace and his heart shook. Refined red copper? Such a big palace is actually made of refined red copper? Whose hand was this? Old Demon Ba can't have this ability. At this time, a mysterious symbol on the archway of the palace lit up. A very familiar aura was emitted. This aura was very similar to Taotai. And? This aura? Emperor Yu? This belongs to Emperor Yu? Hee, so what if it's Emperor Yu? No matter who this thing belonged to before, it is mine now. The Marquis of Champion grinned and waved his hand. He gave Taotai an order in his mind. Taotai, swallow this palace. Young man, you are finished. Seeing this, Liu shook his head. Although I am indeed suspected of fishing, this is also a test for you. After seeing my symbol, if you can cut off your greed and don't make a move on the merchant city stronghold, I don't mind helping you. What a pity! Yes, this time the Marquis of Champion was dead. For Liu, the merchant city stronghold was the most important. This kind of key location, of course, cannot be destroyed by others. If the Marquis of Champion wanted to use Taotai to swallow the merchant city stronghold, it was naturally courting death. Roar, the pitch-black Taotai appeared. Its huge mouth opened like a black hole, giving birth to an aura that could swallow all things. Good. Taotai, swallow it. The Marquis of Champion shouted, but suddenly found that Taotai did not move at all. Instead, it stared at him with a pair of dark and deep eyes. Taotai. The Marquis of Champion frowned and instantly understood the reason. Taotai is Emperor Yu's treasure. This palace is also Emperor Yu's thing. So, Taotai won't swallow it? Hee. The Marquis of Champion sneered and reached out to take off the Taotai jade pendant from his waist. Emperor Yu's treasure? Swallow all things? At my level, you are already useless. Exerting force in his hand, with a kacha sound, the Taotai jade pendant was crushed into powder. Ha! How interesting! Young man, you think you can resist? You think you have the capital to counterattack? No, that is an illusion. From the beginning, you have no room to resist. Liu curled his lips and smiled as he shook his head. At this time, the Marquis of Champion also discovered that something was wrong. After he crushed the Taotai jade pendant, Taotai had already dissipated. However, that aura that could swallow all things did not dissipate. Instead, it became even more intense. Roar, an earth-shattering roar resounded. Endless darkness shrouded the surroundings. An incomparably huge suction force was born. The power to swallow all things suddenly erupted. The Marquis of Champion discovered that under this power, he did not have the slightest strength to resist. So, I have always been in Taotia's mouth? The Marquis of Champion's face stiffened. There was only endless darkness in front of his eyes. When a host dies, thousands of hosts will stand up. Young man, you are the first host to die, but you will definitely not be the last host to die. Liu chuckled and reached out to snap his fingers. The Taotai jade pendant that was crushed by the Marquis of Champion returned to its original state. Taotai, go and find the next host. Liu waved his hand. The Taotai jade pendant instantly broke through the air and disappeared into the void. As for who the next host of Taotai would be, who knew? Who cared? Liu shrugged his shoulders, indicating that it did not matter. Chapter 284. It's time to leave. Liu stepped out of the heavenly tomb space and waved his hand, retrieving the heavenly tomb that had been buried underground. It's been more than 4 years since I came to this world. Little Tingting is already 10 years old. Liu walked to the balcony of the pavilion and glanced at the West Mountain Valley. He smiled and nodded. I've left behind many things after coming to this world. The future of this world will definitely be very interesting. The Green Hill Nine-Tailed Fox, the Sacred Battle Ape, the Dragon Race, and the Qilin had reappeared. Even the most high path's red-crowned crane had begun practicing the Nirvana True technique. In the future where everyone is like a dragon, 100 flowers would bloom and 100 races would coexist. Yes, Hong Yi would definitely attain his Tao. After the Marquis of Champion was killed by Liu, the monkey and the others did not appear, and Hong Yi became the strongest existence in the world. He supported Prince Yu to the throne, and the great Qian dynasty would definitely unify the world. With the Book of Changes and the concept of everyone is like a dragon, it was only a matter of time before Hong Yi attained his Tao. The Su father and son of the heavens beyond heaven were the external demons on Hong Yi's path to attaining his Tao. They were also his stepping stones. As for the land of origin, whether it was the 100 sages or the ancient holy emperor, they only had a remnant will left and could not leave the land of origin. Even Taoist creation and the eternal Dharch were restrained by the 100 sages and could not interfere with the great thousand world. Then, the world's progress would still return to the right path, just with some changes. I'm about to leave. Before I leave, I'll scare you one more time. Liu chuckled and looked out the door. Wukong, Ao Luan, Qilin, quickly come and see me. Yes. The 3 of them responded and immediately came before Liu. Greetings, Supremacy. Rise. Liu waved his hand and nodded at the 3 of them with a smile. Although the 3 of you have not been under my tutelage for long, you have made great progress. I'm very pleased. I've summoned you this time because I have some instructions for you. Please instruct us, Supremacy. The 3 of them bowed respectfully before Liu. Yes. Wukong, from now on, you will oversee Mount Huagua and guard the Copper Hall in the Water Curtain Cave. Yes. Disciple will definitely protect the Copper Hall with his life, and will never slack off. Monkey replied with a solemn expression. All right. Liu nodded and turned to look at Ao Luan. Ao Luan, you will oversee the East Sea and assist Wukong in guarding the Copper Hall. Goku's temper is impetuous, so you have to help him make more decisions. Yes. Disciple accepts the order. Ao Luan knelt on the ground and answered solemnly. Qilin, you can live with Wukong in Mount Huagua, or you can decide your own course of action on the continent. However, you still have to assist the monkey in protecting the Copper Hall. Yes. This disciple accepts the order. I don't have anywhere to go at the moment, so I'll stay with Brother Monkey on Mount Huagua. After receiving the order, Qilin looked at Monkey with a smile. Together. If you guys don't come, I'll be bored alone. Monkey laughed foolishly. Protecting the Copper Hall is your most important mission. This is the key for you guys to contact me in the future. As soon as Liu finished speaking, Monkey and the other 2 were shocked and confused. Only Qilin seemed to have some guesses. Yes, I'm leaving. Liu laughed. Martial arts shatter the vacuum, and the soul attains the sun god. After that, it's time to transcend the sea of bitterness and reach the Nirvana realm. From then on, you'll jump out of the 3 realms and not be in the 5 elements. What? Monkey and the other 2 jumped up in shock. My lord is already at the Nirvana realm? After I leave, that copper hall will be the only place where you can contact me. You can't make any mistakes, understand? Liu nodded and reminded them again. Yes. The 3 of them accepted the order in unison. All right, I've said what I need to say. Liu got up and walked out of the small attic. Monkey and the other 2 followed closely behind and came to the valley of the West Mountain. Little Tingting, come here. We're leaving. Liu walked into the valley and shouted at Little Tingting, who was flying in the valley and practicing flying. Coming. A beam of moonlight broke through the air. Little Tingting, who was dressed in white and exuding a moonlight aura, appeared beside Liu. A few years had passed. Little Tingting had grown taller and bigger. The 10-year-old girl had already become very beautiful. Faint moonlight lingered around her, giving her an otherworldly aura like that of a fairy from the Moon Palace. Tingting, we're leaving. Liu smiled at Little Tingting, then looked at Tu Yuan and the group of little foxes. We've been in the West Mountain for so long. Today we've accomplished our mission. It's time to leave. Farewell, Your Majesty. Tu Yuan and the group of little foxes prostrated themselves on the ground. Farewell, my lord. Wukong and the other 2 also prostrated themselves on the ground. Tingting, come here. Liu smiled and reached out to Little Tingting. Brother, are we leaving? Well, we've been out for so long. It's time to go back. Little Tingting took Liu's hand and leaned her head on Liu's arm with a bright smile on her face. Before we leave, I'll give you another scare. Liu raised his head and glanced at the endless void of the origin ground. He chuckled and pulled Xiao Tingting up. His figure flashed as he rushed into the air and released his aura. Boom! A stream of pure yang qi soared into the sky. It was like a scorching sun breaking through the sky, shining brightly and illuminating the whole world. The power of the sun god is not scary enough. Let's try something more powerful. Liu smiled and released all the powers in the store, including the Green Lotus Emperor weapon, the invisible immortal fire, the chaotic qi, the yin-yang qi, and the qi of heaven and earth. Boom! The heavens shook and the void trembled. Everything in the world, including the great wide world itself, trembled under this power. The Green Lotus Monarch weapon had the aura of a great emperor. The invisible immortal fire was an immortal grade power above the great emperor. The primal chaos, yin-yang, and mysterious yellow were also the embodiment of the bronze immortal palace's immortal grade power. When these powers were released together, it was as if the entire world was unable to withstand them. The entire world was trembling. Brother, what are you doing? Little Tingting looked at the earth-shattering scene around her. She blinked her eyes and looked at Liu, somewhat baffled. Oh, Big Brother is scaring people. Liu smiled, then waved his hand and knocked on the soul-shaking bell on his waist, saying, My name is Yu. Today, I have transcended the sea of bitterness and reached the other shore. I'll leave behind the Tao affirmation method to thank the common people. A mighty heavenly sound resounded through the clouds, shaking heaven and earth and echoing the heavens. Roar! An incomparably huge black Taotai appeared in the void. Then, it turned into a streak of black light and whizzed through the void. No one knew where it went. Alright, that's scary enough. The next host of Taotai will appear soon. Liu smiled and waved his hand, retracting the scene in the sky. System, return. A faint light flashed, and Liu and Little Tingting disappeared in an instant. Only the mighty heavenly sound was still echoing in the void. Emperor Yu has transcended and reached the other shore? For a moment, the whole world was in an uproar. Even the remnant thoughts of the great emperors and the 100 sages in the land of origin jumped up in shock. What's going on? Isn't it easy who achieved Tao in this era? Why did Emperor Yu transcend? Who is Emperor Yu? However, no one knew the answer. Chapter 285. Supremacy is ascending to the Permetha realm, and can still bring little Tingting along? Qilin blinked his eyes, dumbfounded. He can still bring someone along? That works? Didn't you hear what little Tingting said? Little Tingting said to go back. Go back. Don't you understand? Aol looked at Qilin and shook his head. From what she said, supremacy and little Tingting should have come from the Permetha realm, and are only going back now. They can still come back after transcending? Qilin nodded thoughtfully. Brother Monkey, the copper hall of Flower Fruit Mountain must be protected well. I'm afraid that if supremacy wants to come back in the future, he will still need to use the copper hall. Monkey nodded and released the somersault cloud. Let's go. Supremacy's orders must not be neglected. From now on, the Ape Tribe of Flower Fruit Mountain, East Sea Dragon Tribe, and Qilin Tribe must protect the Copper Hall for generations to come. Aol and Qilin nodded heavily. The somersault cloud soared into the sky and turned a new page in the history of this world. Of course, all of this had nothing to do with Li Yu. A ray of light flashed and Li Yu and little Tingting appeared in the immortal abode of the shop space. Here, brother, we are back? Seeing the familiar palace, little Tingting turned her head to look around and giggled. Hee, let's go home. Yes, we are home. Li Yu patted little Tingting's head and looked around the shop space. He smiled and nodded. The harvest this time is not small. The shop space can be renovated again. If he wanted to renovate the shop space, it would not be suitable for little Tingting to stay inside. Li Yu smiled at little Tingting and said, Tingting, you haven't seen Brother Qinglian in a long time. Go and see him. I will go and find Brother Qinglian first. Little Tingting giggled, and stepped out of the shop space with a flash of light and returned to Kangwu Mountain's mountain-gazing river. System, expand the shop space. Every time a shop was built, the shop space would be able to draw spatial energy from the target world to expand the shop space. Although the area of the 9 floating islands did not increase, the space expansion was still very important. Boom! There was a violent tremor in the void as the chaotic qi that permeated the boundary of the Shang city erupted violently, sweeping out in all directions like a raging tide. The expansion of space this time has increased by so much? After the chaotic energy settled down, Li Yu discovered that the entire shopping mall had expanded by at least 10 times. The spatial energy of the previous world was extremely abundant. There were countless medium-class realms in the heavens beyond. Needless to say, there were small kiliocosms everywhere. Therefore, it's very normal for the shopping mall to absorb more spatial energy. Li Yu nodded. The expansion of the space is complete. Next is the construction of the space. With a wave of his hand, Li Yu took out a black crystal and examined it. He smiled and said, You can release the 4,000 divine beasts sealed by the Marquis of Champion. With a flick of his finger, the crystal formed by the dark Mandara barrier instantly shattered. Croak, croak, chirp, chirp. Golden Crow, Jade Rabbit, Fire Phoenix, Ice Phoenix, 4,000 mythological beasts appeared in the shop space. For a moment, crows cried, phoenixes danced, and rabbits jumped. The entire shopping mall space suddenly became lively. System, incorporate Golden Crow, Jade Rabbit, Fire Phoenix, and Ice Phoenix into the spiritual beast system of the shopping mall space. With Li Yu's order, an invisible wave swept through, and the 4,000 mythological beasts were immediately incorporated into the shopping mall space system, becoming a part of the shopping mall space. Their life and death were in Li Yu's hands. My name is Yu. Come and meet me quickly. Li Yu released his aura. As a young god spiritual master and the master of the shopping mall space, the 4,000 mythological beasts immediately knelt in front of Li Yu in fear. Greetings to His Majesty Emperor Yu. The 4,000 mythological beasts shouted and kowtowed to Li Yu. The golden crow, jade rabbit, fire phoenix, and ice phoenix were all ancient mythological beasts. In essence, they were not inferior to the Qilin. They were much stronger than the group of foxes in the West Mountain Valley. With some training, they would be a very good group of people in the future. This is my cave residence. From now on, you will settle down here. We obey Emperor Yu's decree. The 4,000 mythological beasts naturally did not dare to complain. Since you have become my disciples, I will not treat you unfairly. Li Yu waved his sleeves, and 4,000 light spots whizzed out and entered the souls of the 4,000 mythological beasts. To become a group of people, of course, he had to increase their strength. What was given to the Fire Phoenix and Ice Phoenix was the true Nirvana technique that Li Yu had deduced. The Jade Rabbit and the Golden Crow had also deduced the Moonlight Scripture and the Great Sun Golden Crow technique, respectively. This is the technique of acupoints, shattering the vacuum and directly pointing to the Yang God. Seeing the technique that appeared in their minds, the 4,000 mythological beasts were shocked. His Majesty Emperor Yu's divine ability that could seize the creation of heaven and earth was really unfathomable. Emperor Yu is merciful. We thank Emperor Yu for his kindness. After receiving Emperor Yu's teachings, the 4,000 mythological beasts were immediately convinced and kowtowed with tears of gratitude. There are 9 floating islands in the cave. Other than the main island, you can choose your own place to settle down. Li Yu waved his hand and dismissed the mythological beasts, then turned and walked into the Immortal Mansion's garden. This time, there are still many gains. Li Yu glanced at the resource warehouse and smiled. He chose 2 small hills and planted the green dragon tree and the dancing tree. The 2 giant trees towered into the clouds, their luxuriant branches and leaves covering the sky. In the huge Immortal Mansion's garden, these 2 giant trees took up a large space. Not bad. The Immortal Mansion's garden is finally looking decent. Looking up at the Immortal Mansion's garden, he saw the 9 bends lotus pond, the lotus flowers reflected the sun, and the lotus leaves reached the sky. The Bodhi tree exuded a mysterious aura, and the Qilin immortal herb exuded a vigorous vitality. At this moment, after planting the green dragon tree and the dancing tree, the majestic Ewood azure chi and the dancing tree bloomed into Permetha flowers. The entire Immortal Mansion's garden was suddenly filled with endless mysteries and scenes. What's left is to plant the dragon tooth spiritual rice. Li Yu turned and walked out of the Immortal Mansion's garden, and arrived at the pill hall. Outside the pill hall there was a field of herbs. The field of herbs has always been empty. Now I can finally plant some things. Li Yu smiled and waved his hand. Grains of dragon tooth spiritual rice that were 3 feet and 3 inches long, sparkling and translucent like jade, with rich spiritual chi and a tempting fragrance, fell into the field of herbs. System: plant the dragon tooth spiritual rice. In the field of herbs, the black and yellow chi surged, and a majestic vitality bloomed. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Many sparkling and translucent jade-like trees grew rapidly from the field of herbs. In an instant, the huge field of herbs turned into a forest of sparkling and translucent jade-like trees. Not bad. Not bad. After planting the dragon tooth spiritual rice, there will be an endless supply of dragon tooth spiritual rice. From now on, I can eat heaven and earth treasures like rice. Chapter 286. I've planted those that should be planted. I've reared those that should be reared. Li Yu looked at the resource warehouse. The rest of the items are all magical artifacts and tools. Let's put them away first to enrich our collection. He walked into the pill hall and took out the water dragon cauldron that he collected from the Jambu Great Formation. He placed it in the pill room. I don't know when I'll be able to use these cauldrons. There was a row of huge cauldrons in the pill hall. Now there was another one. These cauldrons were basically useless. They were just decorations. Turning his head to look at the green underground fire-green lotus in the fire pool and the purplish-black fire dragon that was transformed by the nihility devouring flame, Liu smiled and nodded. Nihility devouring flame? The fire dragon mirror is quite compatible with you. I'll give it to you then. The 9 magical artifacts in the Jambu Great Formation had been used up. Liu planned to deal with the rest. He waved his hand and took out the fire dragon mirror. He then placed it into the fire pool. Roar! The purplish-black fire dragon cheered and dived into the fire dragon mirror. Rumble! Flames burst out and raging flames raged. The small fire dragon's body suddenly expanded and turned into a huge fire dragon that was 10 zhang long. It roared and swam in the huge pill hall. Not bad. Not bad. After the nihility devouring flame merged with the fire dragon mirror, it has grown a lot. Liu nodded. With this, it can be put to good use. The nihility devouring flame, which was already an emperor flame, finally looked better after merging with the fire dragon mirror. Go back and wait. Waving his hand at the nihility devouring flame, Liu turned and walked out of the pill hall. He came to the lightning pool in front of the blacksmith pavilion. I'll just throw the thunder dragon gourd inside. After throwing the thunder dragon gourd into the lightning pool, Liu was too lazy to bother about it. I'll leave the golden dragon dagger and turtle dragon egg here first. Other than these, Liu had a lot of divine artifacts and supreme treasures. He still had to deal with them. I'm just about to refine those divine artifacts. I can go to the artifact forging pavilion to take a look. Liu hadn't taken a look at the many functional buildings in the shopping mall yet. Since he planned to refine weapons, he might as well go to the refining pavilion. He walked up to the crafting pavilion and pushed the door open. The entire hall was empty. There was nothing there. Well, I'm not surprised at all. Since the crafting pavilion had never been used, there must be nothing left. The furnace was empty, the fire pool was empty, and the quenching pool next to it was also empty. Other than that, even the material storage, exhibition room, and library were empty. Looks like I have to continue working hard. Liu smiled and shook his head. After plundering for so long, he couldn't even fill up the house. It was still far from enough. Let's add something to the crafting pavilion first. Liu glanced at the weapon refining pavilion and gave an order to the system. System, record all the methods of weapon refining in the weapon refining pavilion's library. Over the past few worlds, Liu had collected many methods of weapon refining. In a moment, the library's bookshelves were filled with countless ancient books. The exhibition room can be used. Liu waved his hand and stored all the unused magic treasures, divine artifacts, and holy weapons in the resource storage into the exhibition room of the weapon refining pavilion. The materials can also be stored in the material storage. With another wave of his hand, all the miscellaneous materials, including the Taichu Motetsu, were stored in the material storage of the weapon refining pavilion. Now it's time to refine the magic treasures. Liu touched his chin and smiled. The first thing to solve is the problem of the vehicle. I've gained a lot this time. I have a car and a boat. It's time to get a decent vehicle. Liu waved his hand and a few items flew out of the exhibition room and floated in front of Liu. The sky-patrolling sun and moon chariot of the Yin Emperor and the Shang Emperor, the boat of destiny of the Qian Emperor, the dark gold flying boat that Liu had made himself, and the immortal monument. System, modify the sky-patrolling sun and moon chariot, the boat of destiny, and the dark gold flying boat into a structure of 480 million talismans. Under Liu's order, the 5-colored light swept across and completed the modification in an instant. With a wave of his hand, the 2 chariots, the boat of destiny, the dark gold flying boat, and the immortal monument, exploded at the same time and turned into balls of light. Merge! Liu clasped his hands together and a vast amount of dermic powers surged and merged the 5 balls of light in front of him into one. Boom! With a loud explosion, an endless amount of light bloomed. The 5 balls of light intertwined, penetrated, and fused into one. Done! Liu shouted, and a spiritual light shot out from his hand. The 5 balls of light merged into one. As the light dissipated, a palm-sized ancient bronze chariot landed in Liu's hand. With a flick of his finger, the small bronze chariot turned into an exquisite little boat. In the next moment it turned into a lotus platform. Merging 5 divine artifacts and combining them with talismans, it has the ability to transform into anything. Not bad. Not bad. In the future, I'll get a few dragons to pull the chariot. I'll call it the 9 Dragons Rui Chariot. Liu nodded and kept the small bronze chariot. There were 1,000 dragons in the resource vault. However, they were all dragon corpses that had lost their souls and were not of use for now. In the future, when he found a few flood dragons and turned them into dragons, he could use them to pull the chariot. Of course, the dragons pulling the chariot were just for show. Without dragons, the chariot could still fly in the sky. After refining the chariot, all that was left was to refine the cave abode. With another wave of his hand, the heavenly tomb, the kingdom of eternity, the immortal monument, and the flaming tortoise shell floated in front of Liu. Merge. Using the same method, Liu merged these magical treasures and divine artifacts into one, turning them into a palm-sized model of a small pavilion. With the space of the heavenly tomb and the kingdom of eternity, as well as the protection of the flaming tortoise great formation, it can transform into all kinds of buildings. As a portable cave abode, it will be very convenient. With a wave of his hand, the small pavilion fell into his hand. Liu looked at it and nodded in satisfaction. Since the kingdom of eternity is the main material, let's call it the eternal immortal abode. After keeping the small pavilion, Liu turned to look at the weapon refining pavilion's display room. He found that there was no need to modify the remaining items. There are 2 immortal monuments left. I won't be using them for now. I'll leave them for now. Liu smiled and turned to leave the weapon refining pavilion. Let's try the chariot. With a wave of his hand, the palm-sized ancient bronze chariot floated in mid-air. With a flash of light, the small bronze chariot turned into an exquisite and majestic chariot. It was formed by the fusion of 5 treasures. Among them, the boat of destiny and the immortal monuments were pinnacle divine artifacts. Once the chariot appeared, its aura was vast and boundless. Not bad. Liu's figure flashed and he landed in the chariot. Opening the door, there was a vast and boundless small world inside. There were all kinds of gorgeous palaces, exquisite pavilions, green mountains and clear waters and cool winds. This kind of chariot is more comfortable. If it was just a small chariot, it would be better to walk. Liu chuckled. With a thought, the chariot shot out a ray of light and whistled through the air. In an instant, it made a round in the merchant city. That's pretty fast. Liu nodded. With a wave of his hand, the chariot changed instantly. An exquisite dragon-shaped ship appeared in midair. Not bad. It will be more convenient to travel in the future. Liu flashed out of the chariot and waved his hand to keep the dragon-shaped ship. The matters in the merchant city have been settled. Liu smiled. 4 years have passed in the other world, and 4 days have passed in the main world. I wonder if the owners of the heavenly projecting pearl have any harvest? You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.